Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Kingdom of Kodiak. I'm Kodiak. With me today, Sir Glen, Knight of the Sword and Crown. How you doing?
Doing really well.
Yeah, despite the delay.
Shirt here. So.
Oh, there we go. Yes. Awesome. All right. Well, let's not hesitate. Let's get into the bare necessities. Sorry, Sin. How long have you been playing Amtgard?
I started in '98. August of, what was it? I don't know, like August 18th or something. I've actually got my original sign-in sheet. Scanned it on my computer. So, but August of '98.
Okay. How long have you been aware of Amtgard?
August of '98.
Okay. Yep. That tracks. That seems to be the way we find the game, right? We find it and immediately jump in.
I just moved to Florida. And I was looking, I was kind of bored because I was new in town, didn't know anybody. I didn't know where anything was. And I found a game store and I was kind of, poking around the game store because I'm a film nerd. And there were some people that were about to play a board game and they were short one person. And they're like, hey, random dude, do you want to play a board game? And I'm like, yes, I'm so bored. I would love to do anything. Because I just like got into town like 2 days before. I was staying in a hotel. I was looking for an apartment, and I didn't know anybody or anything. And I played a game with them, and they had just started up Amtgard in Florida. They had started in January, I think, and it was new to Florida then. That was before there was Neverwinter or anything like that. And they were like, "Hey, we also do this thing called Amtgard on Sunday," and I'm like, "What's that?" They're like, "You get to hit people." I'm like, "I'm in."
I'm here for it.
I would like to hear more about this hitting.
Yes, please and thank you. No, I find it funny that you were bored and then a board game is what got you to a place where you could use sword and board. See what I did there? I did board multiple times. I'm really good at that. All right. Still would like to know if you could tell us a little bit about your persona. Now, you have a distinction, well, not serious distinction, but you had a different persona name early on.
Yeah, originally it was Asius. And that came apart. It was Asius Zor Valasar. And that was a lot of work to get to. Because I didn't have like, this is the character I played D&D, or I played D&D and I played games, but I didn't have like this character that like I had really kind of Mary Sue'd myself into. Right? I don't mean that in a pejorative way. Like I enjoy Mary Sue stories. So and those of you who don't know the meme, that Mary Sue is basically when you write the character to be you and you're kind of projecting yourself into the story. So I didn't have one of those, but in high school I took Latin, right? That was my language elective. I took something totally useful. And so that's where Asius came from. Zor is actually one way to pronounce the exclusive or logic function, which I picked because I'm a computer scientist. And then Valasar just sounded cool. And so I put I spent hours like doing name generators and looking things up and trying to find a name, and then I got it and I did not click with it at all. Right? People would be like Asius, and I just like Asius, Glen, what? Right? so there was a lot of effort on my part to have a name, but I was kind of doomed from the beginning because I never identified with it, never answered to it. Like it would eventually dawn on me, Asius, oh, they mean me. But it wasn't like a lot of people have a name that they were known by as a kid, or that like their favorite character name they identify with, and I never had that luxury.
So when did that transition happen? When did you drop the name?
Gosh, I don't know. It didn't take too long, maybe 99 or 2000. So It was the very first. I think it was the first Great Eastern I went to is where it really solidified. So it was the first Great Eastern, which is it's still around, I think. It's an event on the East Coast. Used to be run by Golden Vale. Now I think it's run by whoever's in that area. Maybe it's Crystal Groves. I don't know who runs it. No, Crystal Groves all the east of that. Anyway, it was Great Eastern. We were there. A bunch of the knights from Texas and Colorado had come over, and we all kind of got to know each other over a game of Ring the Bell. It's also where Ring the Bell originated, if you're a fan of that game. And we were sitting around the campfire, and we were making fun of Michael Hammer of God. Right? Or like, what kind of chump can't come up with an original name? You're like, oh, my name's Michael, right? There's all this fantasy to ding. You could be Belgarian or whatever, right? You can't take names like that, but like all these great fancy names you can make it up. And you went with Mike, and then you like dressed it up with like, I'm Mike, But no, I'm Mike, Hammer of God, and we started making ourselves the tools of divinity, right? My buddy Atri, I think, was the what was he? Screwdriver of Justice, or maybe that was Mike, who still plays actually. Mike Hill still plays down in Gainesville, Florida. And I picked Mallet of Providence, and then it just kind of was like it was funny to me forever. In fact, it's still funny to me, and that's kind of why it stuck, and that's what made the full transition. I'm like, this is funny. People are like, it's not funny. I'm like, well, you're wrong. It's funny.
Awesome. Okay. What award or achievement would you say you're most proud of receiving?
Definitely Warlord. That was definitely that took me the most time and effort, and it was also just the most fun. Right? Like being a knight can be a lot of work. There's politics and people expect you to do things, and you have to be your best behavior because you're an exemplar of the game, and there's a lot of effort, right? But no one's like, oh yeah, that warlord needs to serve some more, feasts, and he needs to help out the game more. They're like, well, that warlord's not being a total douche. He's awesome, right? Because the bar is really low, right? So to fight good and not be a total douche. If you accomplish that, then you're one of the good warlords.
Right.
And so that's the best award to get in the game, in my opinion. Right? You get all sorts of respect and prestige with no responsibility.
Yeah, I actually just
gestures off camera you can't see, which is kind of funny.
Yo, you're very kinetic. I remember watching the video yesterday. The knighthood ALU video that you were in, and you apologized pretty early on because you're very kinetic. So I'm here for it. Yeah, I did my homework. I tried at least. Morgan would like to know. You mentioned Ring the Bell, but is it your favorite battle game?
No. My favorite battle game, I actually wrote a article on this. So I'm big into battle game design. Right? I think it's the most important thing to do in the game is run good battle games, right? Like ditching's my favorite thing. I love ditching, but if ditching died and vanished, it would not hurt Amp Card 1, right? I would be sad, but the Amp Card would be fine. But if battle games go away or battle games suck, your park's in trouble. So battle games are important. I also enjoy battle games. But my favorite battle game is what I dressed up with the fancy name is Domination of the Enlightened Soul. But if you've played any first-person shooters, it's basically domination. You have a bunch of capture points trying to capture. They can swap back and forth. And it incorporates all of the things that make good battle game design and gets rid of all the things that make bad battle game design. And then the Enlightened Soul is because when you're capturing a point, you're immune to verbals. So
cool. I like that. All right. What is your favorite class to play? I'm going to point it out now. I do ask later on the question. You have 6 levels in every class.
Yes.
So what is your favorite?
It's kind of situational. So like my favorite game, like at an events where I feel like I can power game without ruining the event for everybody else, is Druid. Druid's just like not the most broken class, but it's pretty up there. And it's fun to just slap some armor on yourself, run around, murder a bunch of people. And there's so many people there. You can go murder 20 people on the left flank, but then you can go over to a different part of the battlefield, and those people never have to see you again. So you don't ruin their day by murdering them over and over again. Like you show up once, you kill them, and then you're gone. They don't have to deal with you anymore. Right? Yeah. So I enjoy Druid. It's just fun to run around and hit people. That's how I play Druid. My favorite class overall, dude, that's tough. I kind of like Assassin. I like Barbarian. I'm not sure I have an absolute favorite. I have classes I play because they make the game more playable for me. I'm a big enough target that if I'm not immune to verbal magic, I will spend literally the entire game standing in one spot. Yeah. That's something every now and then I get stupid and I'm like, I'm gonna play Barbarian today. And I'm like, I'm getting a sunburn.
That's it. Yeah.
Ear bacon. So
okay. So when you're playing whatever class it is, what's your favorite loadout to take?
See now there's things I enjoy and there's things I enjoy but don't do because I feel guilty about it. Because the fact that I'm a warlord influences all of my play. Because in a lot of cases I can show up the field. If I play the wrong class, no one else gets to have fun if I actually, play the way I want to play, which I like to try and win. I don't want to just go out there and be like, I'll just stand here and no, I'm out here to play. So there's a lot of I can't play Wizard, right? I've tried a number of different loadouts for Wizard because I enjoy playing Wizard. I did an Element of Barrage Wizard. That was terrible. I tried single sword with only heat weapon. That was horribly broken. there's anything that like I like fighting, so I like taking weapons, but then I can't have anything else. Right? Like so often I play monk. My favorite mode is probably Florentine monk.
Okay.
And I don't take enchantments. People are always like, "Oh, you're on my team. I can enchant you. And we can kill everybody." And I'm like, think about what you just said. Because there's always some 6-year-old dude who's excited because now, you know, because I travel a lot. And they're like, "Oh, I got a warlord. I'm going to stack him with iron skin and wound skill weapons, and he's going to kill the entire team himself." I'm like, yes, that is exactly what will happen, and they will not have fun. So let's not do that. Instead, I'll go out there as a regular monk, give your enchantment to that guy. He'll have fun, and we can all have fun without ruining anybody else's fun.
Sure.
So
Well, that's fantastic of you to say, because I mean, there's clearly players that go out there and they're like, no, I'm gonna be the best class, best combo I can be, and you know,
yeah,
as a warlord, you know,
yeah. There's nothing wrong with that until you get to the point where when you do that, other people can have fun, right?
sure,
And the number of people that is effective for is pretty small. It's mostly warlords and really high end fighters. Like basically, the bigger the skill gap on your field.
yeah,
Because you could be, you know, a very mid level fighter, but everybody else in your park is new. You could still be in a situation where, oh, I can't play like, you know, self enchanting druid because I'll murder the other team every life, and that's no fun. And then my team doesn't get to have fun either because they know they're not doing anything.
yeah.
So
Yeah, it's interesting seeing players like Sir Sane, who takes the field and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna play healer because I'll just make sure that I don't lose my arm after you take my arm, and but you know he takes his time and just walks around and enjoys himself. Yeah. So, well, thank you for making the game fun.
no,
Those are the bare necessities. Sorry, Sin. Let's get on to the 3 questions KOK viewers have been asking since episode 1, with obviously some caveats. Sir Glenolf has received his toaster, I believe. Sir Ellicott, thank you so much for that. But there's a question of him receiving a soda maker. How do you feel about that?
I'm not a big fan of soda makers. I think it's going to encourage Glen Alf to have a lot of soda in his life. It's an unhealthy habit to drink too much soda, right? If he has to go out, they should get him a soda vending machine that only takes quarters. Because that way he can still get a soda, but it'll limit his intake. He'll have to be careful about it because I don't want, you know, Glen Alf going like this. Some somebody drink soda all the time. It's bad for you. It causes weight gain. It can cause diabetes. Well, that's because of the weight gain causes diabetes. Right, all sorts of things bad for your teeth, you know. And I really like Glen Alf. He's a really good dude, so I'm against that. And if he goes diet, there's a lot of research that says, and you'll hear that from me a lot. There's a lot of research because I'm a research scientist, so I research everything. Sure. I've read so many research papers in my life. I read probably at least 2 a day, usually in my. But anyway, there's research that says even drinking diet soda is bad for you because it causes spikes in your blood sugar and it triggers hunger, and that's not good for you. And so I'm against it.
Okay. All right. That's a strong stance to have. And I think the first on that side of it. So thank you for that. Morgan would like to know, what's your thoughts on bears?
Bears. If you ever see me in the woods fighting a grizzly, help the bear.
Oh, all right. Okay. Are you good with real weapons too, or is it only the foam variety?
Gosh. These are all tough to answer if you think about them, because like I don't want people to ever get the idea that being good at Amphgard fighting makes you in any way a competent fighter outside of Amphgard weapons. Like Amphgard is its own martial art, I believe that, but it's a sportified martial art, and it's very much a sport. The fighting aspect, obviously, right? It's also a role-playing game and everything else, but the fighting aspect is a sport, and if you are really good at that, you are not going to be good in a real fight. You're going to die.
Yes. Yes.
So,
and then the inverse has to be true, right? So if you're really bad at fighting in Amphgard, you'd be super good at fighting in real life, right? That's how that works?
That does track. I've actually we've had a couple people join parks that were like, one of the guys, he's actually a knight now in Winter's Edge, Sir Kazan, super great guy. He used to compete in Shotokan karate, right? He was like national level black belt karate, right? That's like I took, you know, karate and got my Mick Dojo black belt, but like no, I can literally walk in your room and be like, I'm probably the best guy in this room, no matter what room it is, because I'm one of the best guys in the country. And when he started Amphgard, still a newbie, right? Because he had to transition. It's a completely different thing. Mm-hmm. And it helped. He got good quick, but he still had to transition. But then, of course, the answer, because my ego is huge, is of course I'm good at fighting in real life.
Okay.
I'm a registered weapon with the federal government, and I have to actually carry a license to exist because I am naturally concealed carry.
I haven't heard that in 15 years, but all right. Um, Eliza Joy would like to know who or what is your favorite bear?
My favorite bear?
Your favorite bear.
The grizzly bear. I grew up in the Pacific Northwest. Grizzly bears are cool.
Okay. Morgan has a complaint that he'd like to file, and apparently you're the one that's going to solve it for him. If Kodiak continues to cheat on the points for who the best bear is, would you support suspending him from the Dragon Spine hot tub?
Yes.
Ouch.
With no elaboration, just a flat yes.
Okay. All right. Well, that leads us into the question. What are your thoughts on Dragon Spine getting a mobile pool and or jacuzzi?
So that's an interesting question because for my group of friends, I have a hot tub here at the house, right? And I priced out portable hot tubs, and I realized that for a very reasonable price, we could get a hot tub and take it to events with us, right? A nice reasonable price, it was like $30 a person, right? And so we get a hot tub, we can have a hot tub at events. And then it was pointed out to me that nasty, sweaty amp guards are going to come off the ditch field, all gross and stuff, and then they're going to get in the hot tub, and it's going to become gross amp guarder soup. So I'm against the concept now. They completely talked me out of it. No.
Okay. All right. I still want to ask, even though you're against it, but hypothetically, let's say you were for it. How would you well, you kind of already told us that too. You're just $30 a piece per person, right? That's the solve here. Yeah. Okay. All right. Fine. Sir Glenn, I'm going to let you go with those. Those are the three questions KOK viewers have been asking since episode 1. We're at episode 67, so we've been doing it for a minute. Okay. Let's get into some of the questions, and we start with a keeper. Sir Glenn, what is your weirdest flex?
I've got this one. My weirdest flex is that I'm a founding member of the Planetary Society with Carl Sagan.
Wow.
King of the nerds.
Yeah. Dang, wow. That's an impressive feat to have. Wow. Congratulations.
Yes.
Before I point out the next question, Sir Randall has put a heart in the chat. Glen heart. And then also said Kingdom of Kodiak should buy Glen a Coke.
That's true.
I mean, next time you're in town, Coke's on me.
So I've got an amusing story about Randall and Coke real quick.
Okay.
When I was in Ohio for 2 years working my master's degree at Bowling Green State University, and while I was there, I was, as one does when you're finishing your thesis, working just really long hours. I was by myself. The only people, I didn't know anybody when I got there. I got to know the local fighting PD because I fight a lot. So I kind of made friends there, but that was the only people I made friends with because I was really focused on my school and stuff. And one day I was complaining that I really wish I had a Coke because I had another 8 hours of work that day, because I was staying up till like 4 a.m. every day working on my dissertation. And Randall realized that he could send me a Coke, all right? Because this was, I guess things like what is it? Uber food and things like that may or may not have been out yet, but Randall found an easy solution. He called a pizza place and said, "What's your minimum order for delivery?" It was like $20. Like, well, I'd like to order $20 worth of Cokes. And he just sent me all of these 2 liters of Cokes. And like an hour later at my door, there's it rings. I open it up. And this guy just hands me all of this Coke and then leaves.
Oh, that's great. Sir Randall is good for stuff like that. That's
yeah, he's good people.
Yeah, of course he is. Of course. Well, he has a question now, and it starts not with a question, but a statement of fact. You have one of the brightest and kindest personalities of anyone I know, and the question is, how do you keep it going?
I feel like you should meet more people. But I really appreciate the compliment. The answer actually is one, reminders from other people to be a good person. That helps. And then kind of choosing to be. It helps that I've got a lot of privilege in my life. I haven't, all right, I've suffered some awful things in my life, but I've always had a lot of other good things going for it, either before or after, sometimes during. So it's easy to be optimistic when your life just isn't nonstop awful, right? I'm also lucky not to have any mental illnesses maybe ADHD, I don't know, but not like depression or anything like that. That just makes it really hard to be happy and hard to get forward. So I've been really lucky in that regard. So part of that's just luck. But again, part of that is just being reminded to be a good person. I was at an SCA practice last night because I can hit people there. So of course I also play SCA, and I'm not a knight. I think I'm pretty new. I just started right before COVID. And I was talking to two of the knights there, and they were kind of like, because they think I'm new to everything because I don't tell them I play Emperor. I don't want to be that guy. Like, I'm a warlord and Emperor. No, I'm like, I'm new to your game. I'm new. Treat me like a new player because that's what I am. But they're telling me about like being knightly, and they take it really seriously. They're like, when you're a knight, it's about character every day. It's not just how you behave in the field. How are you at 2 a.m. in the morning on Tuesday at 7-Eleven, right? Are you knightly then? Do you exhibit those knightly courtesies? And just getting those reminders from people reminds me, hey, I can choose to be a good person. I can choose to be nice. I can choose to be positive. And those things all pay off. Mm-hmm. There's an old saying, right, that courtesy and kindness are the best investments because they cost you nothing and they still pay dividends.
Yeah.
So, and those are words I try and live by. I'm not perfect. I've definitely not always been the best Glen. I'm not always shiny happy, but I try.
Mm-hmm. Well, and also anyone that's seen you in person or have seen you in a video, you have passion. And some people would take having passion as being like rude or whatnot. And that's not the case. It's just you have a stance and you want to make sure that everyone understands it. You're vocal. I remember sitting in on my first GOTC as just a audience member. Or was it the second one? Or was it one of the ones I attended, and you had spoken and you had the floor because everyone was like, all right, he's speaking up. This must be very important. Let's all listen. And there's a difference there, and people need to be aware of that as well.
Yeah. And that's actually something also that I struggle with because I don't think of myself as I realize I'm loud, right? Kiara came in and was peeked in the door because she could hear me in the other room with the door shut. She's in a different part of the house, and she's probably like, so I'm loud, and I get louder when I'm excited. But I realize I can also come across as intimidating, so I also try and be very, very not intimidating, or try and counteract that because I don't see it, but clearly I'm on the inside, right, not on the outside. There was a knight, Sir Sanchez. He was a sword knight. He's in Golden Vale. I don't know if he still plays or not. But one thing that he always did that stuck with me, and this goes back before he was a knight, it was back in 98 or 99 when I first met him. And every time you killed him, and he was a good fighter. I mean, he's a sword knight, but back then he was definitely one of the better fighters in the area. He would always say positive things. He was never like some people get killed and they're like, oh, damn it, or oh, darn, I got killed, and they're mad about it, right? And they're not just mad at you, they're mad at themselves, whatever. Or some people do, I think it's the worst thing, like, well, I wasn't really trying, right? They try and minimize your wins so they don't feel bad about themselves. Every time you killed that guy, he would compliment you for what you did, right? You stab him, he'd be like, good stab. You threw a fake and then hit him with a wrap, you'd be like, ooh, that was a really good fake. Always had a kind and positive word when you beat him. And that was another thing that really stuck with me. Right? I'm like, I want to be like that.
Awesome. Yeah, no, and we're seeing that with the Knights, the veteran players now. Sir Anatole comes to mind as someone who, when you do successfully beat him, because it takes a lot of energy to do that, he's very positive and very up because he just wants to fight. He loves the fight, so that's awesome. I added a question because while doing my research, I listened to a music video. Tell us about the Warlord song.
So is this the Warlord song I wrote, or the song that's written about me?
Well, you're in it, so if it's not the one you wrote, I mean, it has you in it. So I don't know if that makes it the one that you wrote or the one about you.
Okay. It's probably the one I wrote. Is it all computerized?
Yes. Okay. It came off of your Amp Wiki. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because there's also a song that someone wrote about me, which I really enjoy. It's a positive song, right? I mean, I guess if it was a hilariously mocking song, I could also enjoy it. But yeah, so that was basically an attempt to do more dragon type arts and science stuff, but I'm a computer scientist, right? And that's not just my core identity, that's also my core skill set, right? I'm really good at computer stuff, I've got many years of experience at it. So I was like, all right, well, I can't sing worth a darn. I can sing real loud with a lot of enthusiasm, but not well. So I was like, well, how can I make that work? So I basically created that song using some online tools. That's like it's all entirely synthetic, right? There's no human involved other than telling a computer to do things. And as far as the lyrics of it, they come from Kumbaya, right? Because many years ago in Neverwinter, among a small group of us, that was kind of a joke among us, right? Instead of singing like Kumbaya around the campfire, it was like, Kumbaya, someone's ditching Lord, oh Lord, Kumbaya. Because it was a Ditchfield song, because that was our church.
Yeah.
Yeah, most things that I'm involved in are some sort of old and probably not funny inside joke that's still funny to me.
I mean, I listened to it and laughed, but people think I've got a weird sense of humor too, so who knows? Carryover question from Lightning. What is your favorite garb that you own?
Oh, it's probably garb I can't wear anymore. I have an Asura tunic from when I used to be a member of Asura that is just so comfy. It fits perfect and it's so comfy, but it's got a big Asura symbol on it. And I'm not an Asura, so it's just a big bummer. I'll probably someday take it to a tailor and have the Asura symbol removed, so I can wear it again because it's such a nice tunic.
Okay.
I wish I remember who made it because I'd like to give credit to the person who made it, but I don't remember who it was, which I apologize for. So if you made that, I'm really sorry. But if you make me another tunic, I'll write it down.
There you go. There you go. All right. This is a question that's been getting asked on KOK quite a bit. Kato started it. Sir Manthax asked it last. Back shields and V9. How do you feel?
I think they're terrible. I finally broke my squire of wearing one in one of my, I've got several squires, but my squire Arxadia, he's a knight in Belagarth Dagger. I mixed the two of them up because to me they're the same game. Like I enjoy both of them, but I can't tell the difference when I play them. So he might be a knight in both. Whichever one it is, Pierre the Quick plays, because he's also part of Pierre the Quick's crowd. But anyway, he's my squire, and he used to wear a back shield when he fought Florentine, and I finally broke him of that habit. Probably wears it again now because I'm not there to be a good influence on him anymore. But I think they're a terrible idea. I think thematically they're stupid. I think the fighting style with them, while kind of flashy and fun, is dumb. And I think they look silly. Totally against them.
Fantastic. You have a seal of approval from KOK. Kato, take that. So reflecting on a statement you made earlier about playing whatever class you can play and making sure it's fun for everyone, how do you have 6 levels in every class and keep the games fresh for you?
The real answer is I really like hitting people.
Okay.
So, and part of that actually also is running good games because it's not the class that matters. It's part of it's the people you play with, right? They need to be focused on having fun and there to have a good time. Which luckily, in all the places I've played, Rising Winds, Wetlands, Neverwinter, I've always played with people with that attitude. So I think that's kind of a commonality among players for the most part. The other part is running good games. Wetland especially is known for running really good battle games. We have 3 or 4 master smiths that are solely from battle game running and battle game design. Okay. If you run a mutual annihilation battle game in this kingdom, well, first, no one will play because they'll be standing around waiting for the punchline. They'll be like, ha ha, what are we really playing? But if you tried to make them play it, they would just kill you. Bury you somewhere outside and run a fun battle game. So our players are actually probably a little jaded in that regard because they expect games to have objectives and be balanced and to some degree be self-balancing and have all the things you expect in a good battle game as kind of the baseline, right? Whereas other kingdoms I visited, that's considered a good battle game, and here that's considered the bare minimum. So.
Okay. All right. Are you still actively running leftycombat.com?
No. It's one of those projects that if I had more free time, I would. Like I've got ideas, I've got a whole bunch of notes that got kind of taken over by Fightocracy, which is something I originally wrote because Potato, I guess he's not, everybody call him Potato now. It used to be Potato. There's a story behind that, and he didn't like that name. And because he's huge and we didn't want to be killed, we started calling what he wanted to be called. Also because it's respectful and polite to use people's preferred name. So Tato now. But Tato made some throwaway comment about training system or something. I can't remember what he said. But it was when I was going home for Christmas, and I was at home for Christmas for 2 weeks, and I had a laptop, and I'm like, I can throw together a website. So I put together this very training-centric website and forgot about the fact that no one's as serious about training as I am. And I mean, like, people aren't trying as hard, or like they're not super into like tracking their metrics and getting like, gamifying the training process and stuff. Like, they'll go out and train, they'll go to practice, and they'll work hard. But that other stuff, they're like, that's dumb. Why are you doing that? I'm like, there's metrics and numbers matter, and they're like, no, like, just sit down and go do block run. So it never took off, and so that took a lot of my time away from Lefty Combat. And then Facebook, I made it with a Facebook login, so it'd be easy to use, you could track yourself, etc. Facebook changed their API a couple times, and I got tired of updating it. I think it works right now, but now it's mainly become a repository of drills. I put a bunch of drills in it and some videos and some other stuff there to make it kind of a one-stop training center. And people still use it for that, but no one ever uses it for its original intended purpose of building workouts and tracking workouts for training. Sure. So that makes me sad, and so I've never gotten around to fixing that. Because what I should do, what I really need to do is find a squire who has a lot of free time and is a computer scientist. But what I should do is I should collapse the two of them into one website that is just a content, portal that has all of the stuff from Lefty Combat and from Fightocracy. It'll be a one-stop shop for people's stuff without all the other features I put in there. So that would really be a WordPress site, but I don't have time for that.
Well, when I was doing my research, I saw this Lefty Combat, and I'm like, I'm a lefty. I would like to know combat. And your first thing there is a YouTube video on stabs, and I'm very bad at stabs. So I was like, well, I guess I have homework now. Awesome. Thanks for giving me homework, Sir Glenn. I appreciate it.
I'm good at giving homework.
All right. Morgan would like to know, what's your favorite amp card memory, and what's your favorite event memory?
Oh, gosh. I don't know if I have a favorite amp card memory. Part it's because I have a terrible memory. So my favorite memory is the good memory that I remember right now. Gosh. And then there's some that I remember really liking, but I can't remember what the memory is. That tells you how bad my memory is. So, favorite amp card memory. I don't know. What can I think of right now? Oh, I can think of one. It's a moment that really made me feel good, because I wasn't new, but I was still newish. I was definitely nowhere near Warlord. I think I had Tours of the Warrior, although I stayed at Tours of the Warrior for a long time because I thought it was hilarious. Right? Go out and beat people that have like 8 Oars of the Warrior, and they'd be like, "I have Oars of the Warrior." I'd be like, "I got 2." Right? So some kind of in-person trolling, I guess. Maybe not the best thing to do, but it was funny to me. But in any case, I remember a battle game where for some reason I had a dagger, and 3 people with pole arms cornered me, and they're like, "Ha, we have pole arms," and I'm like, "I have a dagger," and I won. And that was the first time I think that I ever like really overcame the odds, and like one of those kind of heroic things that we all want to do. We all imagine ourselves doing, or role playing doing, actually doing the really cool thing. That was the very first time I did something like that, and that, I mean, I was already hooked on amp card, but if I hadn't been, that would have been something that hooked me on amp card. That moment of being the heroic character that we all envision ourselves to be, and all are, right, in our own stories.
Sure. Well, I'm going to present you a memory that you can reflect on. Dame Azrael Jade's third knighting. We're about to go to White Sands, but you're at Dragonspine Las Cruces, and Sir Randall presents you with a 6'3" left-hander and says, "This is Kodiak." And we spar, and you actually checked one of my boxes that I had like for my amp guard life. I'm like, I'm going to meet Goldcrest, and I'm going to fight Sir Glen. And I did both of those on the same day.
Oh, good.
So there's your memory. I mean, it's about me, but whatever.
No, those are good memories. To a large degree, memories where you can make the other person like be able to check off a box or do something that builds a positive memory in them. Those are awesome. Those are the best. And a lot of times you don't know, because to you, it's you met a guy and it was cool and you had a good time, but you don't know that you just made his day. You made a good memory for them.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that. That makes my day.
For sure. Absolutely. No, my friends get sick of hearing it because it was like I got to go to a knighting. I got to see someone knighted with an angel blade from Supernatural. I got to meet Gokras and I got to fight Sir Glen. Like all these things all happening at once, and it's like whatever.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So Kenjin would like to know, what does a perfect AmpGuard event look like to you?
Ooh, perfect for me, or perfect that I think like this is the way AmpGuard event should be for everybody?
Well, see, perfect AmpGuard event is what is quoted. So your favorite.
All right. So my favorite AmpGuard event would be an event that starts at 10:30 in the morning, so we can all sleep in. And everybody immediately goes to the ditch field, and we ditch nonstop till dinner time. There's a short break where food is brought out to the ditch field. We eat, and then we resume ditching until 2 o'clock in the morning when we all go to our hotels.
Okay.
That's my ideal event. I also, however, am aware that that's not that's some of the people's ideal event, but not the majority of AmpGuard. If we ran events like that, we would stop having AmpGuard.
Yeah, it's the ditching theory that you presented earlier. If we got rid of ditching, AmpGuard would survive. Yeah. Okay. Kato, with a very simple question: to flurb or not to flurb?
Oh, definitely to flurb. Role play, I should preface this. All my answers are with caveats, right? I have no simple answers. And that is because I am terrible at role play, in the sense that not every time I role played, but at least half the time I've role played, people have quit AmpGuard. So and sometimes entire parks.
What?
And yeah, so like one of the first time I discovered this terrible evil power I have, there was a park. I won't even say where they are because some of them may have come back to AmpGuard. And I definitely do not want to embarrass them. But they were something. Let's see, I can't remember their name now. But anyway, something about their name, right? And like their name was in use somewhere else. And so if I was affiliated with whoever that somewhere else was. And so I started this role-playing thing with them online. I'm like, foul villains, thou hast stolen my name. I challenge you to combat, right? And I thought I was having a great time role-playing. And I thought it was like, I called them a cow. Like I looked up period insults. I'm like, thou art cow-hearted curs not to face me on the field of honor, right? Apparently they took that sentence as a threat of physical violence.
Oh.
And thought I was going to come to wherever they were and physically beat them up, right? And I have no idea how this happened, right? Like I don't blame them. Obviously there was miscommunication. I did a terrible job of communicating that I was role playing, right? Mm-hmm. But they eventually all ended up quitting AmpGuard because they were afraid of me, right? I never met them. Their park died because they all quit, and I'm really sorry, but like I didn't even know until later, right? I just thought they stopped role playing. I thought they got bored with the role play and left, and it turned out not so much. And that sort of trend has continued for me in role play. I accidentally killed off the vampire court at Gathering of Crowns, and I think that's still no longer a thing. Again, by trying to role play with them. So like I like role play, and I feel like if I can do it in person in the daylight among people who know me well, mm-hmm. It works out really well. Wetlands does a relic quest every year, right? Which is a 1-day all role playing event, right? And that's how we award our relics. And I really get into the role play there. I've gotten rewarded several times for the quality of role play, so I think I do a good job. They think I do a good job, so I'm claim I do a good job. So I enjoy the heck out of that. And in fact, that's probably the most common trait among warlords, at least in the wetlands, is we are all total role players. There have been times I've needed them to be like a bad guy in a quest, and I'm like, "You want to do this?" And they're like, "No." And I'm like, "Okay, fine." There was face paint anyway. And they're like, "Wait, there's face paint. I'm back in." Right? I didn't know I'd have a character and got to role play and wear face paint. I'm in. So So yeah, definitely role playing.
Okay.
Even though I'm
Awesome.
bad for it.
That's really, yeah. Okay. Shroudstar has a question. If you could create a ladder award in Amcard right now that doesn't exist, what would it be for, and what would you name it?
Oh God, I don't know, because the last one I wanted to create, we did. So I had been pushing Order of the Crown for like a decade.
Yeah.
So gosh, I don't know. I don't think there's any gaps in our system that I can think of off the top of my head. No, I got nothing.
Okay. All right. Well, this will be a good point then to talk about something that's on the table Amcard wide that you, as someone who loves battle games, maybe have some insight on. The battle game night. How do you feel about that?
Oh God, it's the worst idea we ever had.
Okay. Good.
It's worse than our idea back in the 90s of women shouldn't fight. It's worse than that. And I think for similar reason, I think it will cause incredibly toxic behavior.
Mm-hmm.
When you're doing anything, making any sort of societal change, you have to think about what behaviors you're incentivizing. Right? It's always about aligning incentives. And this is where a lot of projects in the real world come off, because you either have unintended consequences, right? Mm-hmm. Like there's a class example from my field, computer science, where they started offering bounties if you find a bug, right? Find a bug, get a $50 or something, right? So they think they're incentivizing behavior of not putting, of finding bugs in code and removing them. No, what they're incentivizing behavior of is putting in easy to find bugs, finding them, and then fixing them, right? And that was an unintended side effect. You have to look at what the actual behavior you're incentivizing is, and what the easiest path to self-satisfaction and a personal reward is. That's the way people work, right? I'm not saying people are bad. I believe people are inherently good. I'm Christian. I'm a big believer in the inherent goodness of people. But people also focus on self-interest. People also focus on what's good for them, because that's part of our nature. And I think Battle Game Night's going to do a couple things. It's going to incentivize behavior that leads to winning at any cost, because that's what we're going to literally reward. And not just reward, but reward our most coveted honor in the game, right? Mm-hmm. We always talk about how great knighthood is and you should want to be a knight. I mean, there's also that weird thing we say, but don't want it too much, which I hate. That's a different topic. But we're saying you want to be a knight, you should try and be a knight. And you can do that by being a total douche and winning this battle game any way you can, right? There's no good behavior. This isn't Order of the Griffin, which I really like, right? This is Order of the Winner, right? So we're incentivizing people to have behavior that is not team-centric, not let's all have fun and care about each other centric, but you should win. There's a lot of people I can think of, in fact, most warlords, right? When they play battle games, and not all play battle games, but once they play battle games, there's ones that love battle games, they are generally not trying their hardest to win. They've found some other goal, right? I've talked to a lot of times about mini games you can play, right? Well, sure, I could win this battle game, but could I win it doing X? Or, if I'm going to win this fight, what if I block 3 shots and then throw a shot? And I do that every single fight. That still lets me excel and do my very best, but it's no longer putting me in direct opposition to other people's fun. And I think the Battle Game Night really solidly does that. I also think it's just another free knighthood for warlords, the battle game. Because like when I go down to one of our local parks, Granite Spire, and that puts 3 warlords on the field. The first 3 picks are always the warlords. And if we're all on one team, people are unhappy, right? Rightfully so, because we're going to crush them, right? And that's what happens every time. That does happen, almost every time. Sometimes we really stack the rules. We do things to make the game balance other than just on the fact that these guys are better at Amcard than other people. But yeah, it'll just be a free knighthood for warlords. And then also it'll add all the political crap that goes to the wars into our battle gaming, right? Mm-hmm. God, I can't think of a worse idea we've had. Boy, okay. That's it.
Well, I'm gonna put the crystal ball in your lap here. Is it gonna happen?
No, it won't happen. It has to get past the circle of monarchs, and that's 75%, if I remember correctly. And it's so hard, even to say something like when I was monarch and at the circle of monarchs meeting, like one of the things we were trying to say was something like, you can't molest kids. It wasn't quite that blunt, but it was basically that sort of thing. And it took us an hour to agree to that, right? There's no way this would pass, right? It's a waste of effort. We couldn't even open up paladin and anti-paladin, much less get a whole nother knighthood. Never happened.
Oh, we still got to talk about paladin and anti-paladin, but we're not there yet. Yeah. Okay. Um, so if you could change one rule right now, what would you change?
Ah, I'd make myself permanently immune to magic in any class I play because I'm very selfish.
All right.
If I had to change an actual rule, I would just open up Paladin Anti-Paladin.
All right. Well, I mean, you're getting there, so let's just talk about it now. So you want to open it up. Are the knights maintaining the white and black phoenixes? Are the white belts still involved? Are we going to a sash with them?
Okay, yeah. So this is actually something I've been pushing a long time. I actually, back in the Battle of ESAM days, don't ever go back and read the eSamurai archive. So just be sad about how awful everyone was. I was awful too. We were all terrible people. We've gotten better. We've learned. We've grown as humans. But we don't always have the best opinions. But back in I've got to actually open over here because I want to get the date right. It was February 3rd, 2014. I wrote an article about opening up Paladin Anti-Paladin. Right? And of course, the people are like, well, you're not a knight. You just want to play them. I'm like, no, actually, at that time, I loved Scout. I'm like, I want to play Scout. But if I was a knight, my opinion won't change. And suck it, doubters. So, but yeah, what I would do is open it up, leave the classes they are for now. When V9 comes out, they need a buff. They're purposely intended. I was involved in a lot of the V8 behind the scenes because I knew a lot of people, and so we would talk shop and bounce game design ideas off each other. I've got some game design experience. You can actually look me up in the game designer credits. I've got my own credits out there in game design, in the role-playing game space, paper and pencil stuff. But in any case, at the time we designed them to be kind of weak because they can't be the strong counter to any class. Because what if you don't have any knights on your field, right? You can't just be like, oh, well, we need an archer to counter this class. No problem. Someone can play archer, right? And that's kind of the worst case. You need a bow. But if you're like, oh, we need a paladin to counter this class. Well, if you don't have a knight, I don't know, start learning to fight and wait 10 years, right? And be a dude. Then maybe you can be a knight. I don't know. So they're purposely built weak. And I think in V9, we should rebalance that and make them on par with other classes after we open them up. But as far as opening up, they should have their own sash, right? They shouldn't be phoenixes. That's dumb. Also, Phoenix is always an awful because a lot of times you can't see it, right? Like it's a Phoenix on their belt favor. You can't see it's behind their shield, or it folds, or it slides behind them. Right? That's always been a terrible mechanic. The must-have Phoenix. And I feel like the whole thing is just catering to knights who want to be elite and aren't elite in their own merits, right? Like, as you may notice from this interview, or if you've done your homework just reading about it, I've got a huge ego, right? I think I'm the cat's meow. I'm the greatest thing since even before Sliced Bread. Sliced Bread came along and was second place. So I don't have a problem that you go and thinking I'm great, but there's definitely some knights that want that knighthood, that paladin to stay special, because then it's special for them and they can be special people. And I think that's crap.
Okay.
There's a lot of reasons I've heard. I've never heard a good reason. The reasons I've heard are paladin make knight special. No, being a talented, useful person makes knighthood special. The knights should make knighthood special, not the classes. They encourage role playing. They probably would if people could play them. Assassin encourages role playing. Barbarian, those are classes everybody loves role playing, right? It's hard to find an assassin or barbarian who's not role playing the crap out of the class, right? Because they're easy to role play. They're memes, not like the modern internet sense, but in the sense that that word conveys an entire meaning and feeling and sense. Right? The same reason people always want to adopt the character of a name. I want to be Raceland. I want to be Harry. Probably don't want to be Harry Potter. He's kind of boring. But I want to be whoever, right? Whichever famous book character, because just that name evokes everything that they're looking for. And they don't have to build up that character. They can evoke it with a word. That's why people often want to play characters from books. They can become that without having to build it, which is fine. But opening up would encourage role playing. People say, oh, the classes are bad. Well, we did that because no one could play them, right? If we can play them, we can fix the classes. The question, white or black, is as much a part of Amtgard as knighthood itself. That's the fact. A dragon spine specific thing. I've never heard that until I talked to Randall. I've never heard anywhere else. So that's just for dragon spine. And I love you guys, but not enough to restrict the classes for. Non-knights shouldn't wear phoenixes. Nah, we shouldn't have phoenixes for the class anyway. We should use the appropriate colored sashes. And that might require some sash color reshuffling or specifying between like light and dark blue. Those are very clearly different. We could do that. There's a lot of options there. Tradition, I hate that one. right? Winston Churchill once said, "Don't talk about tradition. It's nothing but rum, sodomy, and the lash." And he was talking about when people didn't want to change the British Navy because tradition.
Mhm.
I feel the same way about knighthood. Well, knighthood to some degree, but about the paladin, anti-paladin, right? Those are kind of the main arguments I heard why we should just not open it up. I guess the other one, which is also stupid argument, is we shouldn't make them unrestricted. If we do, why not just make knighthood unrestricted and make every Grand Duke unrestricted? Just give rid of every ward. Well, that's a slippery slope fallacy. We can make one thing available to people and not the other. I do that all the time. I'll be like, I have office hours. I'm available at these hours, but you may never call me at 3 a.m. I don't care if you're on fire, right? Call 911. So we already always restrict things while allowing other things. That's just another case of that. So that's my long spiel about why we should open up Paladin
That's
with
fine.
a lot of judging in it.
Okay. All right. Well, I want to present to you my idea, and then since you do have a strong opinion on this stuff, critique mine, and then
Okay.
we'll disagree probably because I also like my idea. Open up the classes,
Okay.
make Paragon and Knighthood have a look the part like perk for any class that they're playing. So if you're a Paragon Archer, you already have the sash with the Paragon stuff on it. You get an additional perk on top of your class. If you're a Knight playing Archer, you get a separate but different Paragon or perk for playing an Archer, and it would go across all classes. And it would just be a matter of putting for Knights a detachable Phoenix on their sash, and for Paragon the silver strip stone. What are your thoughts?
So wait, how does that open up Paladin and anti-Paladin? It sounds like just a change to all classes.
So you open the two classes, and on top of that, you make the perk tree for Paragons and Knighthood.
All right, I hate your idea.
Okay.
Here's why you're wrong.
Okay.
Like I said, I'm very judgy, but I try and be good-natured about it. The reason why I think you're wrong is on the Knighthood part. Knights don't need any more perks, right?
Okay.
Knights, we already have so many perks. We're the straight white guy of Amtgard, right? Mm-hmm. Plus, most of us are straight white guys. In fact, I only know one. Well, actually, that's not true. I know one sword knight who's gay and out, and that's Sir Augustus up in Colorado. Really talented fighter, super great guy. But I do know some other gay knights. But in any case, my point being, we already have tons of perks. We get this fancy belt no one can wear. That look at us, I'm a knight, right? We can wear spurs. I don't even have spurs. I should get spurs. I do like the jingle. We get unadorned chains, right? And then we get the thing that is kind of, I don't want to say toxic, but corrosive to knights. And that is we get free respect. I can show up anywhere in Amtgard wearing a white belt, and people go, that guy's special. Maybe I'm not special. Maybe I'm a total jerk. But you give me cred immediately because of what I'm wearing, right?
Sure.
And I say that's corrosive because eventually a lot of knights get so used to that they stop thinking about it consciously as, hey, I'm getting this thing just because I'm wearing a belt. And they start internalizing that as, I should get this because it's who I am. And that's why some knights get so bent when they're disrespected, right? They're not treated with a lot of respect because they're used to that. And now suddenly they're not being treated that way. And it feels to them like they're being treated badly when instead they're just being treated normally. Right? Okay. And I would be like, these people are terrible humans because that's a natural evolution. You have to actively guard against that. In fact, one of my biggest fears is someday I will be that person. I'll get so used to getting respect and courtesy from being a knight and just being as awesome as I am that I'll stop being awesome. And then when someone's like, Glenn, you're not being awesome, you're being a dick, and we're not even call you sir, your name's now Spudface. And I'll be like, roar, I deserve respect, you know who I am. And that's probably one of my biggest fears as far as like my social development in Amtgard is I'll become that jerk. But anyway, because of all of that, we really don't need another perk.
Okay.
In fact, giving us another perk can hasten that becoming a self-important entitled jerk process by making us entitled. So I hate that part. The Paragon part, I also don't like. I don't hate it, okay, but I don't like it because part of the idea behind moving from the old Master to the current Paragon system was to make Paragon a somewhat easy to achieve, fun reward for people. And if you start adding perks to it, people start overvaluing it, and it'll start becoming political and hard to get. Right? And some people think it should be. Some people want to elevate it up to its practically knighthood. And I think that's a huge mistake. That's not why we did it, and I think it defeats the purpose of making something that anybody can aspire to easily. If you play Amp Guard for a year, you have no chance of being a knight, right? Unless you're some special case like you came from SCA where you're already a Pelican and you're like the world's greatest whatever at this craft. Yeah, then you can become a Serpent Knight in a year. But probably not even that. Probably take a couple years still to get it. In fact, Wetlands has a guy who came to Amp Guard. He is I think it's Pelican. I play SCA, but I only do the fighting part, so I'm mixing up the awards. But I think Pelican is their Serpent Knight. He's already basically a Serpent Knight in SCA. He's very well respected over there in his artistic ability. And it still took him 3 or 4 years to get knighted in Amp Guard. Mm-hmm. So, but Paragon, you can do that in a year. That's achievable, right? That's achievable for people that don't have to make Amp Guard their life or dedicate absurd amounts of time to something. It could just be a fun hobby, right? And I think that's hugely valuable. When I was Monarch, I gave out, gosh, I want to say like 15 or 16 Paragons. And I gave them out to people that I thought exemplified the class, right? Like when you think of, Barbarian in our kingdom, you think of oh God, I just forgot his name. I feel so bad because I know him. He's a great guy. Grohl. Now I'm thinking of the beer Grolsch and it's stuck in my head. I'm picturing the beer. Anyway, he plays a Barbarian Kingdom. He's an amazing human being, and I apologize very profusely for forgetting your name because, like, I know you, and you're gonna be like, you forgot my name, Glenn. I'll be like, I'm a terrible human. But he's one of the people in fact, he's the guy you think about in our kingdom when it comes to Barbarian. So I made a Paragon Barbarian. There's two sisters or twins that play at Sunfall Abbey that were excellent assassins. So I made them both Paragon assassins, right? But I would not put many of the people I made, not all of them, but many of them I would not put at nowhere near the skill level of like knighthood or something, because that's not the point, right? And I don't want them to think that they have to live up to that obligation or that level of whatever, right? Like, you're a Paragon, it's awesome, go have fun, right?
Sure. No, I guess, handing out 15 of them at one end reign or mid reign would make it so that Paragon's a pretty predominant thing. Dragonspine has a little bit of a reduced number on that, maybe one a year.
God. I would not want to live in your kingdom. That's not true. Your kingdom's awesome. I would love living in your kingdom. But not for Paragons. You guys are stingy.
Stingy might be the correct word. I don't know how much information you have on this, but what would you guess is the average number of knights in a kingdom?
Oh gosh, it varies so much. Like, some kingdoms have like 3. And some are like the Wetlands where we have, if you count the inactive knights, you probably have like 25. So I guess the average is around 10.
Okay. All right.
So including the ones who are inactive but will show up once in a blue moon. If you just talk active knights, the average is probably closer to 5 or 6.
Okay. That's much lower than I thought the number was going to be, but that makes sense, I guess.
Yeah. Well, the newer kingdoms tend to not have very many knights, if any. Like, I remember I was up in Northreach talking to one of their knights, and he was like, "Yeah, when I moved here, I was the knight circle." He's like, I'd have meetings and I'd have to bring the beer, and then I tell myself to bring better beer next time. So yeah. Okay. So also, secret note to all you listeners out there: Night Circle meetings, huge disappointment because everybody's like, "Oh, they're secret and confidential. There must be all sorts of stuff happening." Nah, nothing interesting happening there. Nothing secret, nothing special. When I got knighted, I was like, I'm gonna go read the knights list and find out all the crap they say in there and learn all the secrets. Most boring afternoon of my life. Nothing interesting, nothing new that I hadn't already heard in public. I was like, it's all smoke and mirrors. So there you go.
Thank you for letting us behind the curtain.
Yeah, it's a big nothing back here.
Yeah. So, can you tell us about your fighting companies and households? You're not in any fighting companies currently, correct?
That's correct. So let's see. I started for a long time. I wasn't a fighting company, and that's because fighting companies initially left kind of a bad taste in my mouth. The park I started at grew quickly. When I started, we had just made Barony. Like, my first day was their first day in the Barony, and we grew to be a large Grand Duchy. We would field battle games of 50 on 50 regularly. Right, that was just a park day to me, which really skewed my sense of what Amp Guard was for a while. Because I go to parks with like 10 people, and I'd be like, is today fighter practice? Why is nobody here? Your fighter practice is small. Right? But one of the things that hurt that group when it got that large is people joining fighting companies, and then you've got all this weird stuff like people in fighting companies would fight each other even if they were on different teams, which broke battle games, and and it just caused problems. So I purposely did join a fighting company, and as it became more influential in my park, just socially, and also because I became a better fighter. There's in Amtgard, you get a lot of free street cred for being a good fighter. I like it because I'm a good fighter. I'm not sure it's great for the game, but it's good for Glen. But I purposely avoided fighting companies to set a standard and kind of make a point that, hey, you can be, a cool kid or whatever, and you can be accepted and liked by everybody at the park without having to join a clique, right, or join one of these clubs. So I was not in any fighting company or household for a long time. Then I joined the Evil French Canadians, which was started by Sir Rogers specifically to mock the Evil French Fighting Company, which is a fighting company that was originally made specifically to mock the Saracens. Because a bunch of them went to their very first gathering of the Crowns, and the Saracen, they were wearing red and black because they thought that looked cool, because they were from Florida. They never heard of a Saracen. And a bunch of Saracens got in their case and tried to bully them, not realizing the truly terrifying people they were trying to bully. One was a literal mob enforcer. One was like a fourth degree black belt. These were people you do not want to mess with, but they were all friendly, jolly people. So they just responded to the bullying with mockery and started a fighting company based on that. But which doesn't say all Saracens are bad. My friends must have a few bad Saracens, because I met a lot of Saracens, great people, fun to make fun of, I'll admit, but good people there too. But in any case, and so we started the Evil French Canadians to make fun of the Evil French, and so we had a good time with that. But we really just did that at 2 events, and then eventually I joined the Green Dragons. I did that because I did a lot of traveling. I was lucky enough to I'm a computer scientist, which kind of means you're always lucky enough to have a good job. So I was lucky to have a good job and have money to travel and do a lot of fighting. So I traveled around, did a lot of fighting, and I had made friends with people in the Green Dragon fighting company, so I always fought with them. So it was just a natural fit to join the company that I was always traveling to go fight with. And then also that also still met my criteria of there were no Green Dragons where I lived, so I still wasn't starting my own little clique fighting company and causing the problem I was trying to make an example against. So I was in that for a long time. And then one day, Brennan, who is a very controversial figure in Amtgard, and is no longer in Amtgard because he was accused of a bad thing, which is really bad. So he was rightfully banned. But in any case, he was like, hey, I want to form a fighting company of warlords and just recruit the very best and just try and push ourselves to be the very, very best fighters we can, and just keep training and working with each other, and basically kind of make this, I don't say star chamber because it's not but an incubator is what an incubator of fighting talent. We take really great fighting talent and it can just keep pushing itself better and better and better. And also we can win everything because we'll all be warlords. So I left to form that fighting company. And we did get a huge roster of warlords. I think at some point we had 8 warlords that were active. We could field a jugging team that was all warlords and still have to bench warlords. And we did. We just crushed everything. At one event, it was a keep. There was some game, and because our warlords just wanted to fight, we didn't pay attention to the rules. We're just all right, we're going to go out there. And we all assumed everybody else was responsible for listening to the rules. So we knew how to take a death and what the death count was. We didn't know how to win the game. So we went out there and we just murdered to the team. And then we stood around and waited for them to respawn because we didn't know what to do. And as soon as they respawned, we murdered them again. And after about 5 minutes, the other team told us how to win, so we would go away.
Okay.
So I was in that fighting game for a while. There were some good people in it, but unfortunately, there were some bad people in it too. I think one of our problems was that we were focused more on fighting talent than getting to know people. So it wasn't like all of our close buddies brought in. It was, hey, I met this guy. He seems cool, and so and so likes him. We should bring him in. So we got some problematic people brought in, which is on us. Sorry. We did at least get one of them banned when he was still a member of our company, because we do, at least I do, and a lot of the guys in that company did take proper behavior and not being a bad player seriously. So when people brought accusations to us, we often, I can't say always because we're not perfect, and sometimes they were our friends, and you try to believe the best of your friends, which is not the right response, but it's a human response. So anyway, in one of the cases, we actually did the investigation internally. People wanted to keep the guy in the company, and then we passed it on to the Kingdom Monarch, and he was like, well, what are you guys doing? Like, oh, we kicked him out today. And they're like, well, I'm banning him today too then, and that guy's gone. So at least we did some good. but we didn't have the best track record of good members, which is actually why I ended up leaving. I'm like, I can't keep doing this. Having to investigate guys who are supposed to be my company bros and then kick them out or finding out they're doing terrible things. I am maybe not a good enough judge of character to be the person responsible for doing this, and I'm tired of having to do it. So, so there we are. So it was actually when Brennan got banned that I stuck around long enough to do the internal investigation and decide what we're going to do. I was like, if I quit now, I'm dodging responsibility. So I was one of the people that voted to kick him out of our fighting company. And then I dropped the fighting company after that vote passed. And I won't say I'm done with fighting companies forever, but I'm done for a while because that whole experience was very traumatic. And I'm not the victim. So I can only imagine for other people. I'm not saying like, oh, woe is Glen, right? I'm just saying that's my perspective. I definitely realized that other people who are the actual victims in a lot of these cases have it much worse. They have my sympathy and my apologies for anything I did to enable bad behavior. I'm not perfect. That's probably my biggest regret in Amtgard. There we are.
Okay. All right. Well, I think this is a funny question, but it's not at the funny section. But Sir Alucard would like to know, how is Suck It Kara going?
This is actually a classic name of my bad memory. I have a vague recollection of this, but I don't remember the actual context of the joke. I remember it was really funny. Kira's a friend of mine, right? I think we're good enough friends that if what I'd said bothered her or was offensive to her, she would have just told me. But I don't know the context, so I don't know.
Okay. All right.
And especially if it's something that Kira thinks is funny and was one of our inside jokes, which it probably was, I double apologize. I have a bad memory. I actually write a lot of stuff down because I do have a bad memory.
We're gonna have to give you a notepad so that we can keep track of
everything. I take notes. I've got actually notes of like important dates in my life and documents saved online because I'll be like, I don't know what year that happened. 2010, they'll be like 1997, Glenn. I'd be like, I was close.
it was right there. Yeah. Okay. Who's your favorite person that you've fought?
I don't have a favorite. Because so many people are fun in different ways. I just to start by height, because that's different. I really enjoyed fighting Lightning. She's got great energy, she's got great passion. It was fun to watch her learn. Probably next shortest person that comes to mind is my squire Arxadia. He was super fun to fight. He's super physical and super physically talented. So he picked up stuff real quick. We could go over something. I could show him what he's doing wrong, demonstrate, we could work on a counter, and he could fix it that day, which is a very rare talent. Requires a lot of, I don't say natural athletic ability because that's not a thing, but trained athletic ability, right? Mm-hmm. When someone's really athletic, that's not because they were born that way. It's because they've worked real hard to become a very athletic person. And so kudos to him for that. So he's really fun to fight. Next shortest, probably Jay Lee, Sir Jinkin in the Wetlands, one of our warlords. He's really fun to fight because he's just fantastically talented in techniques. We always just tell him because he's so fast, but he's not actually that fast. He's just really good and has, I wouldn't say perfect technique, but really close to it. So he's probably the most challenging person I fight or I've ever fought really on a consistent basis. Next tallest, Anatole might be next tallest. Anatole's super fun to fight. Mm-hmm. He's also fun for fun mini games. When I was in Los Alamos, he came to fight a couple, or we went out to fight a bunch actually. It was just him and Shion and myself, and we started playing the who can get the most kills by dark siding the person. And then we included Shion in the game, but we didn't tell him. So Shion lost because he didn't dark side anybody. but Anatole and I got a whole bunch of points. And he's very creative. His fighting style is very different, very organic. I don't say chaotic because it's all thought out, but it's much more eclectic than say Jay Lee's, which is very much regimented and controlled and has a lot of theory underlying structure in it. Moving up the height, I really enjoy it. I do not get to fight enough. Sane, specifically Florentine. I was lucky enough to be in New Mexico when he was developing his current Florentine style. So I got to actually see it like when it had flaws, and they got to exploit those flaws and win a whole bunch of fights and be like, my win ratio is like 80-20 against you. You suck. I didn't say that. We're all friends. And I like it, but I kind of got good-natured ribbing about his new fighting style. But then, of course, because he's a really sharp guy, he's also built up a lot of athleticism and stuff. He was able to go home and take what he got in that fighting lesson, fix the stuff, and then come back and just beat the dog crap out of you the next time. And I was like, oh, all of the stuff I tried last time is no longer working. But he's super fun to fight. Eggman up in Denver, super fun to fight. I think he's the tallest in my list. And really, that was just kind of this general region because those people I fought most regions were there on the top of my head. There's so many people that are fun to fight. Jamie, who's also here in the wetlands, is super fun to fight. She's all bendy. So she throws a lot of shots from weird angles, but she has a lot of that kind of classical Rogue Company underlying theory and technique. So she's a very unique fight. She's also very talented, so she's super fun to fight. Yeah. Anyway, now I'm just start listing people I enjoy fighting. We'll be here all day because I'm basically going to give you the org.
All right. Beatrix would like to know, after hearing all of these things, why do I want to fight you? I being Beatrix.
Oh gosh, because I'm hilarious. So it's I don't know why you'd want to fight me. I mean, I guess there's a couple base reasons to want to fight me and why a lot of people seek me out. One, I'm a really good fighter. A lot of people want to either test themselves as a really good fighter, or they just want to get the experience and get the practice. So sometimes it's a hierarchical thing. Sometimes it's a web of cooperation. They're generally very masculine and very feminine, respectively, approaches to training. Neither one's right or wrong. They're just different approaches. Other people want feedback. I like teaching. I think I'm moderately competent at it. So I'm always happy to give feedback. But one of the positives, I always ask. I've learned not to just dump feedback on you. Some people just want to fight and have fun, and I've learned to respect that. That was hard for me because I'm naturally a teacher. I always want to teach everybody everything. So yeah, those are probably the main reasons. I guess other things, just the novelty. I'm a lefty. There aren't a ton of us. And I fight differently than a lot of the other lefties, so it'll give you a different experience. Yeah, those are your reasons. Oh, also, I've started a new thing here in the wetlands. You could win a token if you do a first 10.
Okay.
But yeah, I 3D printed all these little kind of like challenge coins, if you know what a challenge coin is. And basically, if you do a first 10 and whatever number you get, I give you the token with that number on it. And you'd be like, I did this. Or you can throw it away, whatever brings you joy.
Whatever makes you happy. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Morgan, another left-handed fighter who's 6'3" as well. So at your height scale, you can add him in there at some point. What advice do you have for up-and-coming fighters?
Oh gosh. So I'll limit myself to 5 things because I can talk about this all day. So the first thing is don't be afraid to teach. Right. This is something I struggled with. Until I got my warlord title, I didn't want to teach because I wasn't certified to teach. I think I'd won 9 tournaments at one point. Still wasn't a warlord because I wouldn't accept the title until I beat Ariel or Jay Lee here in the wetlands. They're both really good, so that was hard. And I didn't want to teach them because I wasn't certified. But teaching, especially teaching who's now my squire Ark, who was my squire then, so it was a knight. But teaching Ark how to improve his fighting and making him a better fighter when I was in Ohio, right? Which at the time was just a fighting wasteland, right? I was by far the best fighter within a 100-mile radius, right? And that's not ego talking. That's verifiable. Like I could go out in a 100-person battle game and they'd have to tell me not to break the game, right? And that happened a number of times. So it was really good for my ego, but I'm trying to be honest. But training him laid the groundwork. When I got to Texas and started fighting and working with really top shelf warlords, my skill just shot up like a rocket, right? It was 2 years of pretty much stasis, a little even backsliding, and then just 2 years of rocket because I internalized and I thought about and I was able to explain and verbalize all of my fighting theory and concepts and how I did things and why I did things. That was the best thing ever for my fight, right? I owe Ark a tremendous debt of gratitude for being a terrible fighter. I say that with love and teasing. He's actually a great fighter. And actually, I'm also giving you an example in the way I interact with my squires with people, an example of what is actually a very masculine mode of training that doesn't work for everybody, right? And I try and control that because that's a very competitive, hierarchical, you put people down to build them up type approach to training. And that doesn't work for everybody. Like I said, that's a very masculine mode. It does work for some women because it's masculine, not male gendered mode, but it is very masculine trait mode. I lost the thread of things I would tell you. Travel to fight new people. Fighting new people is a great way to get new experiences. It broadens your horizons, teaches you new stuff. That's huge. The third one is what people call empty your cup, and that is don't go with ego, right? I can't count the number of times people have asked me for fighting advice and then argued with me about it. I'm like, well, there's my advice. If you don't want it, you don't have to take it, but don't argue with me about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Also, a lot of times they're just wrong. Right? Like, no, that doesn't work because I killed you 8 times in a row when you did that thing. That's a bad idea. But empty your cup. Take advice. This is something actually that's really helped me out in SCA. Because in SCA, I don't go, I'm a great fighter. I go, I know nothing about your sport. Anybody could have useful advice. And a lot of them do. In SCA, because it's heavy armored fighting, a lot of times the consorts, right? Because like when you become king, you have a queen, and that's whoever you pick as consort. It's not necessarily your spouse. It's basically the person you're running with. But they do everything by trial of arms. So these consorts don't fight, but they've watched a crap ton of fighting. A lot of times their husband, who has been the king and they've been the queen, right? They're equal positions, but one of them has to fight. It can be the king, it can be the queen, but it's typically the king, just because there's more dudes who fight. But in any case, these consorts, a lot of people who have never fought heavy SCA combat at all, never picked up a stick, never put on armor, have great fighting insight. And a lot of people blow it up like, dude, she doesn't even fight. Yeah, but she's watched fighting for the last 20 years at the highest level. She's talked shop with her husband. It's probably their pillow talk half the time, right? She knows this shit, and her advice was amazing. I can't believe you turned it down. So no matter who it is, even if you think they're qualified, take their advice. I struggle with that sometimes too. It's not easy to always empty your cup, especially when you're full of yourself like I am, but do your best. I'm going to stop at 3. I'm going to show self-control.
Self-control. It's got to be one of the. There you go.
Yeah, I don't have much of it, but there you go. That was it.
All right. So now we're going to get into the topic that brings specifically you to the table, which is knighthood.
Okay.
I mean, fighting is what got you here, but now we got to talk about the big stuff.
Okay.
D-Man Billy would like to know what makes a good knight.
Oh, I've got it. I actually wrote I wrote a paper on this, but I've written a paper on almost everything. I discovered a long time ago that arguments are cyclical. You'll have the same argument multiple times. So it's really in your best interest to have the argument once. Do an amazing job presenting your arguments. And since I'm a research scientist, I often have citations. So I can be like, yes, you may disagree with me. After you read these 30 research papers and refute them, then you may disagree with me. Until then, I win. But in any case, I wrote this all down once because as in the wetlands, we're a little different than some other kingdoms. If you want to get knighted in the wetlands, it's not just the monarch that decides. You actually get voted on by the circle of knights, and they vote yes or no. And if you pass our vote, then the monarch can veto you or not. Monarchs almost never veto someone the circle of knights passes because one, a lot of the knights are fussy old bitches. That could include me. I'm sure there's a lot of people like, Glen's also a fussy old bitch. You should lighten up the standards because I have pretty high standards. A lot of people probably think they're unrealistic, and that's a fair opinion to have. But in any case, if they get past us, they're pretty solid, right? Not always. They're all before my time, of course. I'm a fairly new knight, but we have made some stinkers. But generally, if we make a knight, they're pretty solid. And then also there's sort of that real world problem of there's also the politics that if someone's not a knight and they're king, they don't want to piss off the knight circle by vetoing them. Mm-hmm. I like to think we're all more adult than that, but it's easy for me to say that because I'm the guy with the white belt already. I'm like, oh, I would never punish you for crossing me, but don't do it, right? So I totally understand their fears. It's not great they act on that, but it's completely understandable, and I don't judge them harshly if they are. But in any case, that's where our knight circle was. So I actually wrote down and published what I expect from knights, because that way people know. And I also actually publish my votes every year. Actually, I think I forgot last year because it was COVID and we didn't vote. But generally, every year, other than that, I think I posted. Certainly, if someone asks, I'll tell them what I voted. But I generally post my votes and why I voted because I believe in transparency. Big fan of transparency. So what I'm looking for is I've got a list of, it's on my computer over here, so I'm turning to the side. I've got a list of 6 categories. They are demonstrate your mastery, which means because knighthood, you have to be a master first at something. You should continue to show master level skills. If you're a warlord, keep winning tournaments, you're a crown knight. It's not just running for office, but it's initiating, taking charges, mentoring officers, right? I'm a crown knight. I get questions all the time from people in office, not just in my own kingdom, but other kingdoms, ask me about questions like, hey, I have to do this hard thing. Do you have any advice, right? Mm-hmm. Or, hey, I don't know how to do this thing, or I would like to have a clever idea. Do you have one? Or I have a clever idea. Do you think it's clever? Things like that. It's not just about being in office, right? If you're a flame candidate, right, are you still volunteering and serving and getting, or helping other people do those things, right? If you're a serpent, are you still making quality stuff? Have you made me a tunic, right? But that's the key. That's good. And I won't give you examples for all of them. We'll be here all day. And then also versatility in your mastery, right? Because that's a subcategory of density in your mastery, right? If you're a warlord, I want you to be good at sword and board, right? You should be able to kill him with anything, right? Before I got to warlord, I streaked to 21 with the foam guitar, right? I don't hold everybody to that standard, but that's an example of the sort of flexibility you should have. Be like, we gave him a guitar, we're all doomed, right? It shouldn't be we gave him a guitar. He's only good with sword and board. It's sword night, not guitar night.
Right.
So there's that. There's teaching your mastery. You should be raising up the next generation of whatever it is you're a master in. If you're not, you're a master. You're not a knight. You gotta build the next generation up. You need to be a leader in your mastery, which means it's not just training some people, it's promoting your field. Being inclusionary. For warlords, I talk about warlords a lot because we often need the most help doing these things. And also it's the thing I care about most. But you need to be inclusion fighting. If you see people standing on the side of the field, invite them to fight. They'll be like, hey, do you want to fight? They'll be like, I don't have a sword, right? And you're like, hey, here, I brought you a sword. Come fight with me, right? Make it something inclusive. Welcome people in. Get people excited about the thing that you are good at and assume we are excited about, right? And be very positive and proactive in it, right? And don't be exclusive in any way. Remove obstacles actively, not passively. You should be providing opportunities for players to get involved in your field, right? For a warlord, that means reaping, running, even creating tournaments, not just fighting and not just getting people fighting. Make the opportunities for people to get involved as well as getting people involved. You should be known in your master. No one's ever heard of you, or you can't be a resource maybe because no one knows who to ask, right? Also, if you're really good at stuff, people will know, right? You can't hide your light under a bushel basket with a torch. It'll burn the basket. So I don't say be a torch because then all the Bobs over in the CK will be like, yeah, be a torch, we're the best. Great people, but I don't want to give them that ego boost. But you need to be known in your mastery. People all need to know that you're great and be aware that you're great and think you're great. You need to be active in Amp-Guard. That's where a lot of people fall down, especially because it's so hard to get knighthood. It's hard to get mastery, which I think is another flaw we have. A lot of people burn out by the time they get to the master, right? And they get to the point where they could be knighted and their attendance is already tanked, right? And we've waited too long, but we shouldn't knight them then because our knight should be visible and our new knight should be the most excited in doing stuff, not shows up once in events or twice a year.
Sure.
And the last one is one that I also struggle with, and that's being approachable and accessible. People should feel comfortable coming to you, not just in your field, but with a problem. We actually had a case in the wetlands where there was a player who was not popular. A lot of people didn't like them. But they also had friends and they had some influence. And it turned out they were a convicted child molester. And the person that found that out did not want to bring it to Mark's attention because they did not want to deal with the pushback, right? Because there will be a retaliation if you get the popular awful person banned, right? That's just reality. It's unfortunate, but that's life. So they came to me and they're like, hey, your problem now, Glenn. And that's important. They didn't come to me because I'm a great fighter. Maybe they did. They're like, no, they'll be able to beat Glenn up. He's a warlord. Clearly, he must be able to beat a bear in a fight. But I was accessible for any problem man. And that's something that I'm not great at. I don't think I'm a super accessible person because of my loud personality and my focus on fighting, but I try to be. And we should all succeed to some degree in that. Hopefully, a lot of people will succeed better than me at that. And we'll be accessible to be not just resources in our mastery, but resources in the game. So.
Awesome. I like all of that. That makes me very happy.
Yeah. But if you don't meet those things, I no vote you.
Well, are any of these papers at a place where people could read them, or
yeah, they're all online. I've shared all of them. I can, after this is over, just drop me a message, and I'll just drop links to all these in our Facebook chat, and you can post them wherever.
Sweet. Thank you. That's great. We're going to go back to a topic we already discussed. I just want you to pick one or the other. Okay. We don't have to get into it. You don't have to disagree or anything like that.
I'm going to disagree.
Paladin or anti-paladin?
So complicated answer, but I'm just going to give you the answer that Michael Hammer of God gives. And that is paladin. And his reason for that is because he wants to be a paladin. He wants to be an exemplar of a good person. And that's the core of my answer. The other reason why I'm against anti-paladin, a lot of people historically have used that excuse to be just a complete jerk. Is it a problem that I've been swearing on your show, by the
No,
way?
not at
Okay.
all. Not
Because
at
I was
all.
going to say a complete asshole, because that's more accurate. And so if anybody is offended by swearing, I apologize. I will try and moderate it now that I'm thinking of it. So people aren't bothered by that. It's an easy concession for me to make, and it makes other people more comfortable. I'm all for it. So, but it was an excuse to be a jerk, and we don't need that, right? You're like, I'm not a jerk. I'm just role playing an anti-paladin. Nah, you're being a jerk while role playing an anti-paladin. So that's something that I think does need to be always addressed and stomped out whenever it comes up.
Okay.
So paladin.
Okay. All right. My research does say that you do technically have more credits in Paladin, so that, but again, all level 6, so what does it matter?
Well, I started leveling down before I got knighted.
Okay. So this isn't necessarily a knight question, but I thought it was good for the knight category. When did you know that you had it when it came to fighting?
Oh God. Depends what it is. Like I've always thought, because I have a huge ego, that I had the potential to be a great fighter. And part it's also because I came from sports, right? I actually came from I would say combat sports, but the next neighbor over, I played hockey. I played hockey up through college. So I was used to playing a sport that had violence in it. I was used to getting into fights. I enjoyed all of that because I was young and stupid and didn't realize how much hospital bills cost. So I was like, I'm gonna beat all these people up. I'm a moron. So I always had a lot of physical confidence, right? It also helped a lot that when I started, everybody at my park was new. So it wasn't like, and I feel really sorry for the new players now, because the new player comes out to him on a local park, and there's me, I'm a warlord. There's Armand, he's got 7 or 8 Ors the Warrior, right? And then there, like, if Kiara comes out, she's at 6 or 7, right? And then there's actually a reasonable drop. We've got a lot of newer people at our park, but you're not going to be the hero of the day if it comes to straight melee combat, because we're going to murder you, right? We're not all going to be on the same team, so we're not all on your team. One of us in the team, and if you run into us, we're probably going to win a melee fight, right? When I was new, everybody was new, so there wasn't that huge skill gap where I was like, it's so hard to kill Bob or kill. There were people that were better than me. That's definitely true because they've been playing longer. And they also had they had trained athletic ability, but it wasn't a huge gap. So it was very easy for me to not just visualize, but execute that visualization myself as a good fighter who's doing cool stuff. That's actually one reason why I would say that talented fighters are kind of toxic to their park, right? The best thing I can do for my park is travel, right? Because if I show up every week, there's some guy that most people can't beat there every week. And that's not heroic, right? If you read a book, there's not some guy that beats the hero's butt every day. The hero kills everybody. And everybody wants to be the hero. Everybody's the hero of their own story. And one of the things I can do to help that is get out of the way, right? Go somewhere else for the day, right?
Okay. So, but there's no distinguishing time where you're like, you know what? We've talked about your ego on this show so far. There's never been a moment where you were like, no, I am great. Like
actually no. The point. This is very ironic because I had a little bit of imposter syndrome. Everybody can get imposter syndrome, even if your ego is huge, apparently. Until I got my warlord, I was like, I don't know if I'm good enough. And that's actually why I always try and discourage people from accepting it early, because most people that are that competitive and train that hard already have some self-doubt, right? And that's part of what pushes them in a lot of cases. Not everybody, but you really need to do a self-check, right? Because a lot of people, when they get warlord, they're like, did I really earn this? And you need a safety blanket. Like my safety blanket was I'd won in, I think at that point, like 6 different kingdoms. I'd won 9 tournaments. And then after I got my warlord, like in the next month, I won 3 more tournaments, right? I pulled a hat trick. I won 3 tournaments in 3 kingdoms. So that, like, then I was like, oh, well, I have doubt. Look at all these wins I have to keep me warm. Right?
Yeah, right.
If I would have had that, if I would have been like, the I would say the minimum, but like the standard, right? 4 wins, warlord, right? It would have been awful for me. I would have had so much stuff that every time I lost a fight, I've been like, oh my God, I'm a fraud. So for me, it was really then. It was after I got my warlord and then won those 3 tournaments immediately afterwards. And I was like, oh yeah, I got it. I'm a warlord. I'm good enough. But until then, it was hard the whole time. So those of you who are coming up and have those same self-doubts, I've been there. It's natural. Don't get down yourself because you're having doubts or feeling like an imposter. Most of us were there. Some people probably are lucky enough not to have that mental problem, but most of us did. Doesn't make you a bad person. Doesn't mean you don't have promise. It means you're human. Do your best to get through it. And if I can help, reach out. I'll try and help.
Sweet. Awesome. Um, I feel like this is a pretty straightforward question, but I'm sure that we'll get some kind of diatribe out of it that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Edit this way down.
yeah. No. It goes up. My talking at the beginning and then my talking at the end, they get cut out, but the rest of it's there. Everyone gets to see all of the shenanigans. Which belt means more to you?
Sword.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean that's the honest answer. I value it more highly than the other ones. I try not to. I mean, this is also like Glen's confession booth here, right? I try and treat all the belts equally, but it was actually that's not even true. I held like 30 offices to get my crown belt. It was a lot of work, but I guess I didn't notice it as much because I would say I never lost to like your elections you lose, but there's not as much losing getting other belts as there is getting your warlord, right?
Yeah,
and
right.
I spent so much time at second place. Like there was a time when like if I show up at a tournament, everybody else would just be like, "Oh God, I'm coming in third," right? Not because I was going to win. The warlord was dead. Everybody knew the warlord was going to win, but I was good enough that I was always second. I could never beat the stupid warlord, but I could always beat everybody else. And I must have taken second like 20 tournaments at least, right? In fact, the Wetlands became a joke for a while. In fact, it's still a joke between Ariel and I, right? We went out to dinner not too long ago, a couple weeks ago, and I got order number one was my little card, right? It was Whataburger maybe, Five Guys, one of those places. I'm a terrible texting. I just mixed them up. But I got number one, and Ariel's like, "Oh, you got my number." And we both laughed because, yeah, I did. I should have got two. He was always the one that beat me for a long time. But yeah, I forgot the point of the question. There we go.
It was which belt meant more? Sword.
Oh, yeah. That's why sword means more because I feel like it was harder for me. But the crown belt also means a lot, right? And if I ever get a flame or a serpent belt, and I'd like to collect all of them, right? I mean, everybody likes. I mean, I'm a big believer that you can want knighthood and you can say you want knighthood and say you're working towards it because we keep telling you to do that anyway. Like it's this great thing, everyone should work towards it, but don't say you are, right? Yeah, I've tried to become a flame knight. I've tried to become a serpent knight. I think those would be cool. I would enjoy having those belts. They're good belts. People that do it do cool stuff, and I want to do cool stuff.
Awesome.
That's
okay. So reflecting on again the videos that you did for the ALU, has your opinion of Amcard changed since you've been belted? So previously you said that knighthood was too hard to get, and you said that we need to codify knighthood. Those were statements you made as a warlord. Has that changed?
I was totally wrong. Knighthood's too easy. No one else deserves it, and we should keep it just for him. No, I think that's still true, but maybe with some more nuance now that I've seen the inside. I'm actually like I'm in favor of knighthood existing, but not 100%. I'm like 60-40. We should keep knighthood versus pitch it because I think it does cause a lot of problems. It creates a sense of I don't want to say entitlement, but people feel like they should have gotten it and they don't, and it makes them bitter because they don't understand why. Or even they have an honest judgment that they've reached the point where they should be knights, and when they are knights judging people, they'll still judge people at that point. They'll be like, no, this is the point you become a knight. You guys are wrong. This is it. And that won't change when they become a knight. They'll be like, everybody here should become a knight. And the problem is the people who are deciding put the line here, right? And that creates a lot of ill feeling. It causes burnout. There's the secrecy of knighthood is stupid, right? We have secret meetings. There's nothing secret happening here. Like the most secret thing might be the fact that Glen hates custard donuts, and that was not public knowledge until now. Like there's nothing secret happening. Painful donuts. In any case, yeah. So there's a lot of negatives in knighthood, but I do think overall it is a positive. I think it does push people to get good stuff, but we need to demystify it and make it more open. And it does take way too long, right? I think Randall did the math once, and it's like the average person plays for 2.5 years. That's their career. I'm not saying we should make knighthood accessible in 2.5 years, but it takes 10 to 20. That's stupid. I can get a doctorate in 10.
Yep.
Hopefully. I'm still finishing my doctorate, so I'd say that in my but
Fingers
people
crossed.
smarter than me, like Augustus, who's also a warlord, right? Got his doctorate in less than 10 years. In fact, I'm pretty sure it took him longer to get his warlord than his doctorate. Doctorate's a lot more impressive and it should be harder, right?
Yeah.
So we need to bring that down. Like I'd like it so that 7 years with like fighting specifically is the one that's hardest, I think, to get as far as time, right? And we do this thing at SKBC every year. We say, how long did it take you to get your warlord from when you started Emperor, right? And the average is like 10 or 12 years, right? There's some weird people like Speedy Pete, Peter the Quick, that he got his in like 4 years. That's because he also played a different game for like 15 years before that, where he was acknowledged as the best in that game. Because he comes to us from Bellegarde. But that's way too long, right? And part of that can be fixed by improving our training methodologies. Our training methodologies are pretty bad because most of us aren't teachers like Anatole. And even Anatole is not a physical trainer and a teacher. He teaches, I forgot what he teaches. English and special ed, I think. I forgot. I love you, Anatole, but I forgot what you do. I know you teach. But I think that's it. But in any case, and he's probably our most qualified warlord total, except maybe Tato to teach. It's that two of them on opposite sides of the country. And in the middle, we've got idiots like me who are like, well, I teach college students and I can do research. I can learn to teach this, right? I mean, I got an athletic background, but I'm not a trained trainer, right? I'm doing my best to learn to be one, but there's so much. And those guys still come from a male point of view. So if you're female, where's your trainer? Right? Mm-hmm. Or I shouldn't say female because that creates the wrong duality, right? Also, gender's not dual. But if you have more of the feminine traits when it comes to athleticism and training, right, than the masculine traits, our training system is built for people with the masculine traits because it's been built by people with mostly masculine traits. The farther you are in that spectrum towards the feminine traits, and I've got a paper on this I can give you too, and give you a quick idea of what I'm talking about, like competitiveness, that's gender neutral, right? But men like a hierarchical ordering in their training. Women like a web of connectedness, right? Both sides value winning, but one has more, masculine, I should say, has more of a fear of helplessness and a loss of freedom, whereas the more feminine modality is a fear of rejection, isolation, right? The feminine modality is process valued over outcome. The masculine modality is outcome valued over process, right? And all of our training modalities, since they come from dudes, and a lot of times very dudes, right? Because that was really a car in the 90s. Then all of our modalities have that masculine leaning. And once again, I've lost the thread of the question, so I'm going to stop rambling.
It's fine. So it's just, has your opinion of knighthood changed? And
no, not really. The nuance has changed. It's still way too hard to get knighthood. We need to fix that. I don't know how. I'm trying my heckin' best to improve fighting training, but I don't have all the answers. I don't have very many. All right. Ask me about computer science. I got a lot of answers there.
There we go. All right. You have 10 Smiths, so Flame Knight soon?
I would like that. My fiance Kiara, right? She's a master smith. And so in addition to her well-known fighting prowess, she's also a heckin' good battle game designer. So I would like that. I do a lot of teaching, and I would like to get it for teaching stuff because I think that's an important thing, not just because I want masterhood, everybody does, that's fair, but also because I think getting masterhood for doing teaching of stuff helps emphasize that teaching is valuable and can lead you to one of our top honors in the game that everybody wants.
Okay. Awesome. You have mentioned that having all 4 belts would be something that, you would be striving for. So what are your plans since you have 10 flames? What's your plans for Serpent? How are you going to do that?
So Serpent, and this actually touches on something a lot of people like, you shouldn't have a plan to get knighthood, right? You shouldn't be like scheming towards it. We shouldn't be scheming and I shouldn't be like Trent, whose Amphgard name is Jonah McNeil. He's our king right now, and he's a friend of mine, right? I give him a lot of crap sometimes. I gave him a lot of crap today. Sorry, Trent. I probably gave you a little too much crap. Actually, it was yesterday. Probably a little too much crap yesterday, but sorry. But in any case, he's a friend of mine. And so I don't mean like scheming, like I go to Trent and I'm like, hey, Trent, I will hook you up with 40 cases of Fireball if you like. No, or my next order was, no, not that good. But like scheming, like what amazing thing can I do next? Like what would be cool? You should totally be doing that, right? How can I get better as a fighter? Where can I go to practice? Or what can I do? Or how can I get in contact with Glen and get some fighting advice? And the answer is just message me on Facebook. But get some fighting advice so that I can become a better fighter. Like, you should totally be doing that. That's the point of holding it knifehead and saying you should want this. So my plan to do that is I want to science. I want to be the science of ANS, right? Because that's my skill set. I'm a research scientist. So I've written several papers on like female fighting, right? Like the physical differences, right? People always talking about like women should swing from the hips, which isn't true, and is something we mainly say to irritate Jamie. But it used to be Anna, but Anna doesn't play anymore, so now we have to irritate Jamie with that statement because you're draining power from your legs, which is where your biggest muscles are. But so talking about through and debunking a lot of those myths about how men and women are different and you can train different. And then I've got other ones that aren't finished, talking about the psychology and the socio-cultural aspects of how you train different gender focuses different, not different genders, right? But more how you, not even how you identify, but I guess what your kind of proclivities are and how you interact with people is the best way to put that. A lot of the research on sports psychology and gender training is still focused on the duality of male-female. Because a lot of that, the research goes back to the Title IX, when Title IX came out for sports. So back then, there were only two genders was mine. I mean, there were more than two genders. There was like, there's male, there's female. And you'd be like, there's other genders. And I'd be like, nah, I can count there's two, dude. So a lot of the research only focuses on that duality. You have to kind of fill in the gaps yourself for how people who are transgender or non-binary or other things, how they'll identify. But yeah, that's where we got.
Okay.
And again, I've forgotten the question.
I have to scroll up. So the question was, how are you going to pursue surfing?
Oh, yeah. So I'm gonna science the hell out of it. I'm gonna keep writing papers. Because I write research papers anyway. One of the things you do as a research scientist is you write not just papers like you wrote in school, but like peer-reviewed research that is novel research that advances the state of human knowledge. You write it up. It takes forever long to write a paper. Like like it's kind of funny because it's progression. Like in grade school, you have to write a paragraph. Like, oh, it's gonna take me forever, right? And then you get to like, later grades, like 8th grade, you can whip out a paragraph in like 3 seconds. You're like, that's so easy. First grade homework so easy. But now I have to write a 2-page paper. Oh my God, this is so hard. You get to high school and you're like, oh, I have to write an 8-page paper. It's so hard. I can whip out 2 pages in 4 minutes. That's easy. You get to college and everything kind of keeps scaling, right?
Yep.
It turns out once you get to PhD program, it goes backwards because writing an 8 to 10-page paper takes me about a month and a half, right? Because it has to be original research, has to be cited. I mean, I'm working on a paper right now for probably the American Engineering crap. Anyway, it's the American Education Research Journal. But I've read probably 80 different research papers to get just the background to prove my initial argument before I even get to my research. But you have to have those citations, all stuff, and that's what I'm trying to bring to AMCO. So that's not just like, here's Glen's opinion because he's a warlord and he knows some stuff about fighting. No, that's great. Doesn't mean I'm right. Like for a long time, we told you when you block, if they're coming to the outside, twist your wrist out. It'll give you more angle. That's a terrible idea, right? This position here, which is what I just told you to do, is the classic injure your wrist fall position. This is responsible for most wrist injuries when people fall. It's the most common injury when people fall, right? It's a terrible idea. You want to keep it straight. You keep structure, keep the line between these bones and this bone, right? Keep that wrist straight. Don't bend your wrist out, right? Terrible idea. But for years we taught that because it worked and we were all big dudes. But by bringing actual science, right, say here's some peer-reviewed research and not just like one paper. Here's 30 different citations that support my entire, not just one part of it. Bam, science, done. We can accept this is true and move on because it's the state of the art and it's not reviewed by a bunch of idiots playing guard, but by like guys with PhDs who are the best in their field and have been checked out by the other guys who are the best in their field. So that's my plan to do ANS and get a surfer belt because I'm not going to sew anything. I'm terrible at it. I don't like it. I love when people make me tunics. So once again, make Glen tunics.
Yes.
Because I won't make them for myself. I'm terrible at it.
Okay. All right. Last question before we get to the most difficult questions. We typically call them the funny ones. Tell us about your belt line.
All right. So my belt line, I was Brennan Squire before he got banned. Uh, I am no longer Brendan Squire. So but then it goes back. And it's he was Squire to Diokin, who I think is a Corsair, and then I looked this up at some point. Like it goes back to like the dawn of Amtgard through all these people I'd never heard of, half of whom are dead. Um, but anyway, they're all sword knights until it goes back to the point where there weren't sword knights. And then the people that are my squires, for a long time the joke was, who's my squire, you have to get knighted. Because my original squires were Arxidia, who's a knight of Belgarth, and one of their top fighters, and Dame Sindari, who's out in Desert Winds. She's a 3-belted knight that doesn't have sword belt. She was my other squire. So they were my 2 squires. And then Deanna, whose Amtgard name I'm now forgetting because I know her by her real name so well. That's what's in my head now. Not Dana, but it's something like that. Denara, that's it. Yeah. So she, I'm like, no, it's D. Her name's D. I won't tell you her last name because girls have a tough time in Amtgard when they're good looking with people creeping them. So I'll leave her somewhat anonymous. But yeah, I picked her up as a squire because she was super passionate about fighting. I got brought out to Feast of Fools, maybe Feast of the Dead. I always mix the two up because I have a terrible memory. But anyway, they flew me out and put me up and brought me out basically to teach fighting out there. Mm-hmm. So I went there and taught a bunch of fighting, and she was the person who was most passionate about fighting out there. Like she was at 2 a.m. when everybody else had wimped out from ditching. So like, oh, we're tired. We've been fighting for 14 hours. Cry me rude. She was still out there fighting. And then it was just the 2 of us. We decided to take a big period, and then we sat around and talked about fighting. And that's sort of passion that I need in my squires because I am absent-minded and not always good at keeping in contact with people. I have that. I don't know if I'm ADHD. I've never been diagnosed or anything, so I don't want to claim I have a disability. But there's a characteristic in ADHD that I have that's called what is it called? It's like the non-decay of friendships. Like you can not see someone for 20 years and you don't lose the place in your friendships, like you pick up where you left off. That's what it is for me. So if I don't talk to someone for 2 years, I don't think of that as a problem because we're still buddies. If there was a problem, they would contact me. We'll just pick up where we left off. And that doesn't work for a lot of other people, so I try to be really aware of that. But it helps if they're very enthusiastic and always reaching out to me to talk about fighting and stuff. And Dee definitely has that. I love her to death. She's great. So she's my 3rd squire, and that's all the squires I have. Someday I'll find a squire who has those same passions and is local, and I can actually train them up personally rather than remotely. So that so far hasn't happened. I do have a slight bias towards left-handed people and towards women because those are 2 areas where lefty naturally, so I'm a lefty, but also because that's the area where I feel like I can give more help than some other people can. If you're just a right-handed dude, there's so many people out there that could be good matches for you. Maybe it's better you match with one of them than with me, right? Which is to say I wouldn't take a right-handed male squire, but I feel like I bring less to the table that's unique in those cases.
Sure. So. Cool. One day, you could show me how to fight, anyone with a sword and board as a left-handed fighter. I'm atrocious fighting against sword and board. I immediately see this giant shield in front of me, and I'm like, I can't kill you. I'm just gonna run away. But anyways.
Yeah, we can probably do that in an afternoon because righties are stupid.
I like this.
There's like 2 different three. I can give you 3 moves. So the 3 crazy things. I can probably give you 3 moves that will let you defeat 75% of the fighters in the Amtgard, if not more.
When are you coming down?
Probably the next time there's a lucha, I will be in the area.
Awesome. That's great to hear. That's a KOK breaking news right there, folks. Sir Glen, next lucha. I mean, that made sense because lucha, but
yeah, all right. PR generally teaches, and I'm the tag along.
Yeah, sure. Awesome. We're at the toughest questions, Sir Glen. These are the funny questions. They're funny to me, so whatever. Sir Nikolai was in the chat, wanted to know, what are you drinking?
Water.
Water. How long have you been drinking water?
Since I was born.
All right.
probably probably since I was born, but shortly thereafter. It's kind of a basic staple of most people's, life. So the quick story here is I'm currently trying to cut weight. That sounds a lot more macho than diet. I'm just trying to get to a really good fighting shape. I picked up SCA, so I want to be as light as possible. I'm still packing on as much muscle as possible. So I'm cutting out a lot of carbs. Also, that helps build more. Crap, I just forgot the biochemistry because I'm not a biochemist. I won't say mitochondria, but I'm pretty sure that's the wrong thing. But anyway, it doubles the amount of whatever it is in your cells. It breaks down fat as opposed to glycogen so that you actually perform better at higher altitudes. So it's also something I often try and do before I go out to Gathering with the Crowns, because you guys live at 10 million feet. And I live at literally 300.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry I have to call up the chat here. Sir Randall, no, I did not ask for a Squire's belt. I won't be taking a belt from anyone. I just want to know if Sir Glen can show me how to beat the simpletons that are right-handers.
You don't have to be my Squire or my belted line or even my friend to get fighting advice. I like talking about fighting. You just have to be dumb enough to ask me a question, right?
I want to be your friend.
You can be my friend too. I just not a requirement, right?
Sir Randall would also like to point out that it's midichlorians.
What's that?
Midichlorians is the M word. Yep. Yeah. That's
probably it. Yeah.
Now
I'm mad about those movies again. Thanks, Randall.
All right. Still would like to know, what's the best kind of dragon?
The best kind of dragon?
Yep.
Like the award or the creature?
The creature.
Silver dragon.
Okay.
Classic D&D. Had the best breath weapons, could shapeshift, wasn't a hoity-toity green or gold dragon. Plus, I definitely like the European look more than the Asian look. So the green dragons in first edition were definitely the Chinese dragon, and that's not my favorite type of dragon. So that's why silver.
Okay. All right. Favorite fictional knight?
Fictional what?
Knight.
Favorite fictional knight. That would be probably Sir Roland. Not because I've ever actually been culturally and literarily aware enough to have read the Song of Roland, but just because I've read enough of it, I guess, to like the opening, like Roland to the Dark Tower came. That's just a cool line, and so that's why.
Okay. All right. What is the best fictional or non-fictional sword name?
Nightbringer. And that's actually from, because I've been around a long time. Back before there were MMOs, there were text-based MMOs called Muse, MU, multi-user whatever, multi-user dungeon, multi-user shared hallucination, whatever. I was pretty heavily involved in that scene, both running it, coding it, etc. Because I'm a huge dork, which is okay, right? Plus nerds are cool. But in any case, I was really into that, and one of the games that I helped create and run, the best sword in the game was called Nightbringer. So I always enjoyed that sword, and I made it up, so I think it's my favorite.
All right. What's your favorite book of all time?
My favorite book of all time is Armor by somebody Stakely. Can I see the book from here? I'd have to get up and go look. But yeah, I think it's Jonathan Stakely, but it's a great book, and it has no sequel. It's tremendously depressing about that part, but it's a standalone book, still really good.
Okay.
I don't know why it's my favorite book, because there's a lot of series I like better, but that book really just stuck with me.
Okay. Still would like to know, do you play Magic the Gathering?
Never played it.
Wow.
In fact, ironically, when it first came out, my sister was in college and she was doing student teaching because she's a teacher and she wanted to be a teacher. So she was still in college, she was doing her student teaching, and Magic the Gathering had just come out, and I didn't get into it because I was a hockey player and we didn't do nerdy stuff. But I did do nerdy stuff. I was playing D&D instead of playing Magic. But in any case, I bought her a starter deck and one of the explanation starter books, right? Like first edition, first everything. And she never opened it, and it's still in her desk.
Oh, I think we need to go hit up someone's desk, y'all.
Yeah. So if you're in Spokane and you're a thief and you're into Magic the Gathering, you could someday get very lucky.
Eliza Joy would like to know, what's your favorite color?
Ah, probably like an emerald green or a really rich gemstone blue. However, if you're thinking about making me a tunic, I have a serious shortage of purple tunics
Okay.
and blue tunics that are made of linen specifically. But I only have one purple tunic, and I'm not sure I fit it anymore, which is a shame because a glow in the dark unicorn embroidered on it. I've gotten broader in the shoulders from working out.
Mm-hmm.
Probably fatter too, but the shoulders is the fitting problem. But yeah, so that's my answer.
Okay. All right. For anyone who's looking to make a tunic for Sir Glen, of course.
Yeah, it'll get worn all over the country. I'll tell where you made it. In fact, a good thing to do is put a little tag like in the sleeve so I can reference that and be like, yeah, this is because one of the things actually this was Kiara's idea. And I did it for a while, but then my terrible memory screwed me over and screwed over these talented artists. But I would be, I'd be like, oh, I'm wearing this. Like I have a great tunic. It's green. It was my green dragon tunic originally. It's got green. It's got dragons on it. It's magnificent, right? And I would say, oh, this is a tunic Donnie made. I'd say I'm wearing Donnie Darko, right? Because that's what they do in high fashion, right? If you're wearing Christian Dior, you're not wearing, oh, this dress is made by Christian Dior. Like I'm wearing Christian Dior, right? You say you're wearing the fashion designer if they're a really talented designer. So that's what I do with my tunics. Like this is the Donnie Darko.
I like it. I like that a lot, actually. The next one, personal question. Is Kodiak more of a Jedi or a Sith?
It's a bear.
Well,
I would say then if I had to answer the Star Wars context of Gray Jedi.
See, this is why you're one of my favorite people. Like, that's the right answer. You hear that? Did you hear that? Awesome. All right. Who is playing you in a live action Amtgard movie?
Oh God. Well, the honest answer is there was a guy that was in A Knight's Tale who apparently people think I look a lot alike. He'd play me because he looks like me. Or Steve Buscemi, because when I get really tired, I get really bad bags on my eyes, and people unflatteringly say I look like him. But I'm gonna pick somebody like The Rock. The Rock plays Glen. Because he's a super swell guy, everybody likes him, and he's huge.
And when The Rock is coming out playing Sir Glen, what's the theme song?
Gosh, Beethoven's Ninth.
Okay. All right. Sure.
No one's going to this movie.
Well, I mean, The Rock's in it.
Career.
The Rock's in it, so maybe people go to it, but no one watches it a second time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Canned in the first week. Right. The Rock can't get a job afterwards. He comes and beats me up. It's my idea.
Yeah. I mean, I'll let him know that this was your idea. It'll be great. So now you're in a different world, and everyone has superpowers. What's your superpower?
I'm gonna pick the genius superpower you see in all the Marvel movies, right? Like, Stark or something like, oh, I learned nuclear physics in an evening. No, you didn't. I've been in the room with some of the smartest people in the world, and it took them years to learn that. Right? But in movies, being smart is a superpower. That's what I want. I want that. I want to have the powers that I would have if I was this smart in a movie.
Okay. Still, I would like to know your favorite conspiracy theory and your favorite Amtgard conspiracy theory.
Favorite conspiracy theory. Like I don't have any conspiracy theories off the top of my head. There's probably one that I thought of it would be funny, but I can't think of it. So I'm gonna make one up. No, actually, that's not true. Well, I'm gonna actually tell you something that's actually real, but no one believes it. And that is that the word Randall's name is actually Scandinavian, and it means to eat something like rapidly all at once. Right. So I don't know if you ever heard people say like I'm gonna Randall all of these chips. It's actually a term that means like just like like Cookie Monster, then basically, right? Wow. But everybody no one knows that, so it's almost like it's a myth, right, or an urban legend. My favorite Amtgard urban legend would be Oh God, there's a whole bunch of terrible ones that I'm glad are dead. From the God, everybody talks about the good old days of Amphguard. They were either clearly have a terrible memory or they weren't one of the people causing problems because God, those days were awful. I had a lot of fun, but I'm a huge dude who fights well. But boy, those were bad days. So a positive urban legend that I like from Amphguard is Top. Oh, I know. It's my favorite thing to actually tease women that I like about, and that is that what women should swing from their hips because that's where their power comes
Okay. All right. Lightning would like to know: would you rather adopt 100 duck-sized horses or one horse-sized duck?
from. Horse I do just one horse-sized duck,
Okay.
because it seems like it'd be less work. And my buddy Armand and his wife Shannon have horses, and I bet I could sucker them into taking care of my duck.
Okay. Fair enough. We know that you would fight a bear one-on-one, so still I would like to know: would you rather fight a duck-sized horse or a horse-sized duck?
Horse-sized duck, because I would feel bad that I was bullying the small horse.
Okay. All right. Sir Glenn, are birds real?
Yes. Although, according to my buddy Sir Bjorn out in Neverwinter, koala bears are not real.
So,
So possibly that is a fictitious creature, and the ones you see are animatronic. It is well known that Australians like to play practical jokes on visitors, like the mythical drop bear that will kill you, right?
mhm.
So maybe they made up koalas too.
All right, maybe. Okay. All right. There's a new spin on our birds real question. Speaking of some questions that we keep running into, that philosophical debate, which you seem to have no problem with. So let's get into it. Sir Smiley would like to know: is a hot dog a sandwich or a taco?
Oh God, we had this debate in my lab. People were citing sources. Um, a hot dog is neither. A hot dog is its own subclassification, of which sandwich is in the same category. So you got to think of it like you have. It's not like there's two things and that's it. You have to think like the way you categorize animals or living creatures, right? You have animalia. It's been a
Yep.
long time since I took biology, but and it breaks down, right? Well, that would mean that sandwiches and like your classic sandwich, like a PB and J or a whatever, and a hot dog belong to the same superset, but are individual items in their own subsets.
Okay. All right.
And so it really comes down to, this is where the computer scientist comes back out. It's all set theory, right? It's graph theory and set theory, and you can build a graph of these sets and supersets.
So we have hot dog and we have sandwich, but if the bread in the middle of the hot dog breaks, is it now a sandwich?
No, because it's fundamental nature of the thing. It's just a broken example of the thing. If I have a glass and I crack it, it's not like, oh, it's not a glass anymore. It's a crappy glass now. So, and you could change it. Like you can grind it up into ground glass, and then it's ground glass that used to be, a cup. But you would have to change it significantly in form or function before it becomes a new thing. Just like when we have living creatures, if you have a very small mutation, right? Say you have blue eyes instead of brown eyes, right? Or you've moved out of Africa to Europe, and now your mutation is lighter skin tones. You can translate more ultraviolet radiation to vitamin D and break down cholesterol. Then that's mutation. You are still a human being. You're all still in the same group. You've got a protein. You have to have a big mutation, like going from Neanderthal to actually I think Neanderthal almost seem to have a common ancestor, but you know what I mean. All right, and you can have those big changes, you become a different thing, but it has to be a big enough change that now there's substantive change to become a new thing, a new category.
I appreciate that the sandwich taco debate has got to evolution. I really appreciate that as a whole. Ice cream or custard?
Ice cream. I don't like custard.
Okay, you're making some bold statements about food, and I mean the donut statement, now the custard statement.
Yeah. See, well, the problem is it's that uniform. The custard, like I like cream-filled donuts, like those chocolate-covered. I don't care round or square, whichever, but they're they put cream in the white cream. The stuff is actually cream, not custard, right? I love those. And I didn't used to dislike custard, but I like the cream better. And people are not careful with their words. And I'd say, is that a cream donut? And they'd say, yes. And it would be a custard donut. And when you want one thing that you like better and they give you an inferior thing and tell you the same thing, especially when you're a small child, it makes you mad, right? So I've built up a unfair dislike of custard through disappointment. The same reason I like oatmeal raisin cookies. It's not because there's anything inherently wrong with oatmeal raisin. It's because so many times I thought I was getting chocolate chip, which is better than oatmeal raisin. And instead of chocolate, I got a raisin. And if you offer someone chocolate and give them a raisin, you're a monster.
Well, now it's official. We need to fight, but I don't know if there's going to be foam swords involved. This is no oatmeal cookies are my favorite cookie. And also, yeah, custard is the best filling for a donut.
Well, do you like chocolate?
Do I like chocolate?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not my favorite.
Yeah. See, and there's the difference, and that's okay, right? But if chocolate was your favorite thing, you would like chocolate chip more than oatmeal raisin.
That's fair.
Right?
That's fair.
And that's why it's all just about preferences. Like, I don't judge you on this one. There, like the whole like give knights look apart. I judged you for that one. You were just wrong, right? But this, you're not wrong. This is all personal preference. Watch different people.
Sure. I mean, I'm not necessarily wrong about it, but I'm not going to debate because it's not about me. It's Kingdom of Kodiak. It's about Sir Glen today. Sir Glen, how much is too much to pay for breakfast?
Ooh. That's a complex question because part comes down to your personal wealth, right? There are some people that paying $5 for breakfast is too much because that's that proportion of their disposable income. That comes down to kind of their life and their happiness. How much of your life and happiness are willing to pay for breakfast? But there's also an absolute number where I think you're just being obscene with your money because that money could do good somewhere else, and now you're just being wasteful with it. That number's probably high. I would say maybe $500. You pay more than $500, I don't care how much money you have, you're a dick.
Okay.
You could go get you could get an amazing breakfast for $50. I've had amazing breakfast for $50, $75 at like Michelin, not Michelin stars, but like maybe they were, I don't know, because I wasn't aware of Michelin stars then. But like at least that level, right? Of restaurant, right? I wasn't paying as a kid. But that and that's fine, right? You've got money, you live, you can enjoy it. I'm not saying everybody should be poor. We have to, socialize all the money and make it all even. But there comes a certain point when you could still have the amazing experience and help out a deserving person, right? And that's that line, right?
And for you, it's $500.
It's probably, yeah. It might be less. Like I can't put. I'd have to do research to give you an exact number.
Okay.
So because then there's also like at some point you're also just paying for more people to have jobs and salaries, and so the money's not being wasted, just going to the economy in a more productive fashion than other ways you can introduce money into an economy. Economics is very complex.
Okay.
And I'm not an expert. I know enough to know some stuff and then know a lot of stuff I don't know and just be able to point out and be like, those people are wrong. Right? I can't tell you what the right answer is. I just identify wrong. That's the limit of my knowledge.
You just got dubbed with the title of Glen, kind of a breakfast commie mop.
Not Bernie Sanders.
Well, yeah, that's fair. Okay. What is your favorite thing to put on yogurt?
Fruit. Specifically, I like fruit at the bottom yogurt that I can then flip upside down and have the fruit.
Okay. Is there any one of the fruits that you would like more than the other, or?
I'm pretty cyclical in my food habits. I don't have whatever the thing is that most people have where they can't eat the same thing, a lot. Like if I like something, I can eat it nonstop for 2 years, and then I'm like, well, I'm done with that. Like for a long time, it was peanut M&Ms. That was my candy. I always got peanut M&Ms. I'm pretty active, so I can eat a lot of peanut M&Ms. And I ate probably over the course of several years thousands of dollars of peanut M&Ms, right? And then one day I was like, done with that. I don't hate them. That's no longer my favorite thing, and I moved on to the next thing. And yogurt's kind of the way. Right now, I'm kind of a strawberry banana person.
Okay.
And that's all I get. But in another year or two, I'll be like, well, I'm done with strawberry banana now. I've had the other flavors, but I'll have a new favorite.
We are not encouraging anyone here on KOK to bring bags and bags of peanut M&Ms to the next event that Sir Glen would be at and drop them at his feet. We are not supporting that at all here on KOK. We are supporting that.
I would totally eat that. However, I do like the dark chocolate peanut M&Ms a little bit better right now.
Okay, there you
So,
go.
but yeah, I'll eat the hell out of them.
I
I'll
love it.
share too. If you bring me a ton of them, I'll feel obligated to share. So
Oh, that's fantastic. Sir Smiley would like to know waffles or pancakes.
waffles.
Good
Part
man.
of that's nostalgia. When I was an undergrad, sometimes I would just grab frozen Eggos from the freezer on my way to class if I was running late and eat them on the way, which is, a lot of people probably think is monstrous, and that's a fair cop. But some of the nostalgia, and also the Nooks hold syrup. If you got like real maple syrup from Canada, shout out to our Canadian Amp but you've got some of that. That's really good. So
Okay. Is oatmeal a soup?
only if you make it wrong. Like I've definitely made oatmeal that was a soup. I like Quaker Instant oatmeal, but I should get sponsored by them now that I mentioned them on your show.
Wow. I wish I could get sponsored.
Yeah. I actually tried to get a sponsorship once. It didn't work out, but I got kind of far on it. But in any case, no. If done correctly, it is not a soup. It'd be closer to a stew, but again, it's not a stew, but they start to fall into the same supersets.
All right. Final four questions.
Okay.
What is the square root of a bowl of oatmeal?
The square root of a bowl of oatmeal. Let's see. So we have a bowl of oatmeal. If you take the square root of it, it's going to be. It's going to be about half.
Half?
Yeah, mathematically speaking.
I
I mean, people can argue with me, but I'll have to ask them what their graduate degrees are in.
What's your favorite spoof band?
Favorite spoof band? I like a lot of music, but I don't follow the band. So I'll be like, I love this song. They'll be like, what is it? And I'll be like, I don't know. I can sing the lyrics, but I can tell you the name of the band. So favorite spoof band, I'm just gonna go with Weird Al because no, wait a minute. It is Survivor.
Okay. Any specific reason why it's Survivor?
Yes. So you guys who are younger than actually all of you probably may not really know who Survivor is, but they're the band that did Eye of the Tiger.
Uh-huh.
Right? It's the Eye of the Tiger. It's the heat of the fight. Blah blah blah. Right? It's in Rocky. It's a very famous song. If you look it up on YouTube, you'll recognize the song immediately. They did a spoof of their own song called Glen.
Okay.
And it's basically Glen, 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 and it's a great song. It talks about him going up his career path as a supervisor and stuff. I think they did it for a commercial, but that's not the point. The point is, they wrote me a song.
Yes, it was a commercial. Yeah, you're right. But okay. Very interesting answers that we're getting here this week. Gotta appreciate it. Last two questions. If you could meet anyone in history, who would it be, and why? Is it Freddie Mercury?
If I could be anyone, what?
In history, who would it be, and why is it Freddie Mercury?
Okay. So it's not Freddie Mercury.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not Jesus. Because I would not want to ruin religion for everybody. Because no matter how that shakes out, you just broke faith, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think meeting Jesus is a terrible idea. So the person I would like to meet is crap. Now it is Freddie Mercury. It's Freddie Mercury. We would freaking rock out. I might even learn to sing.
There we go. Can we agree that Freddie Mercury is the reason why Queen is good? But
yeah.
It's because it's him. It's not the band. It's
Freddie Mercury.
Thank you, Sir Randall. I'm so glad that you're here in the chat to hear Sir Glenn agree with me on that.
Does he think it's because of some other reason?
He thinks that Queen is good, and I say Queen is overrated. And by process of saying that Freddie Mercury is what makes Queen, you're saying the same thing. You know, it's semantics at this point.
Yeah. I mean, people can like what they like.
Yeah, no, it's fair.
It's not like trying to give knights some perk when they're playing classes.
Well, I'm just trying to come up with ideas to move the game forward. I'm not a knight. I don't know what knights want. I don't know what people want. I'm very awkward.
I'm just here to carry you down as a person and hold you down.
That's right. I've already done the military thing. I don't need to be torn down to be built back up again.
You're probably immune to me then if you've done the military thing. Nothing I can do to compete with the drill sergeant.
Well, I did have Goldcrest on here, and he straight faced me the whole time, and I felt like I was back in the military. So I was like, okay, yeah, but it was awesome. Whatever. Last question. Let me breathe. If it takes a chicken and a half, a day and a half to lay an egg and a half, how long would it take a grasshopper with a wooden leg to kick the seed out of a dill pickle?
Let's see. Is it a dill pickle that's already cut in half, or is it a whole dill pickle he'll have to open?
You know what? The dimensions of the dill pickle are not mentioned.
Okay, so I'm going to give you a qualified answer. It will take him about 45 to 50 minutes to open the dill pickle to the point where it would be if it was already sliced. So that's our variable to change. And beyond that, it's going to take him about, if he's careful and diligent at a job and just kicks out the seeds, it's probably going to take him about an hour and a half. If he's sloppy and just kind of kicks at random and gets a lot of wasted pickle out with the seeds, probably about half that.
Okay. All right. I think that's the first time that it was actually broke down with a legitimate answer. And it was put together. That's fantastic. Sir Glenn, thank you so much for coming on. If you could just bear with me through some announcements, we'll say our goodbyes. Okay. Dragon Spine, next month, we're going to be having our mid-rain. It's going to be at Scorpion's Peak in Mesa, Arizona. I hope everyone can make it. That being said, the Queen has put out award recommendations. Please make sure that you do that. There are a lot of great people that have come back to playing Amp-Guard that need the opportunity to be awarded. I'll pass Burning Lands and Pegasus Valley and the other members of our kingdom. Thank you so much for coming down to Dragon Spine Las Cruces last week. We had 40 people at the park that played multiple battle games and socialized, and it was fantastic. Morgan, thank you so much for making it all the way from Obsidian Gate to just give a bear a hug. That was fantastic. Let's see. I think those are all the notes I have. It's not, but I can't remember the one for El Paso. Cato, I'm sorry. If you're listening, put that in the chat. Sir Glenn, thank you so much for coming on today. It was fantastic having you.
You're welcome. I had a lot of fun. This was great.
Great. I will send you a message just to remind you about the papers. If you want to send them to me, I'll put them up on the Kingdom page. If that's all right. Yeah.
They're links. I can send you links. Ask me which ones, because there's like 40 different things I've written that are out there somewhere, not including the stuff on Lefty Combat and Fightocracy. So, okay. I mean, I guess I can give it all to you if you want, but it's then it's kind of overwhelming to people. So,
well, if you give me all the links, I'll just throw it in a Google Doc and then put it up and make it a document itself that people could just find, if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, fantastic. That's great. I don't mind doing that. So again, thank you so much for coming on. Until next week, this has been Kingdom of Kodiak, and I'm Kodiak. Goodbye.